Playing ads right now, and everybody's going nuts in the chat.
We're here. We're here, guys.
Why, hello, YouTube. Greetings from the Lazy Eyebrow to this podcast I think we're doing, or whatever we're calling it. I don't know. It's 9 guys talking about Transformers. I'm going to pass it off to my good friend Anthony from HNE Games, because I am terrible at hosting things like this. So take it away, Anthony.
Great seller. Anyway, Anthony from HNE Games. So today we're going to talk about Transformers Year-End Reviews 2020. The topic was brought up by Bacon here from TFormers. He's in the center square. So that is how you stop anybody from getting tic-tac-toe. So we're going to start with some introductions, and we're going to start with the Lazy Eyebrow here. Please tell people where they can find you. Obviously, they found your chat, but also on social media. So please let us know that information.
Well, you're currently on the channel, as was mentioned, but you can also find me on Twitter at The Lazy Eyebrow, Instagram at The Lazy Eyebrow, Facebook at, you guessed it, The Lazy Eyebrow. I'm sure there's many others like Discord, and I can't remember what else I'm on. But, if you're watching this channel, you're probably part of one of them.
Okay, Bacon, can you please tell people how they can find you and TFormers?
The name says it all. You can find us at tformers.com for daily news scoops.
That was short and sweet. Okay, Rodimus Primal, please inform the people about you.
Oh yeah, me. That's right. I'm sure a lot of folks know about me. My channel. I usually do a lot of Transformers discussions and retrospectives, and as well as a few toy reviews here and there, along with reviews about different shows within the Transformers universe, and try to do what I can. And then of course I've got all these lovely folks. So take it away.
Okay, Bert, please let people know about you.
Yes, good evening. I'm Bert the Stormtrooper, and I'm talking to the camera.
Oh, it's you.
News at 11.
You can find me on Bert the Stormtrooper on YouTube. I do the That's Just Prime review, where I review every Optimus Prime figure that I can possibly get my hands on. Been doing that for about 7 years. I'm also on Facebook, Bert the Stormtrooper, Twitter, Bert the Stormtrooper, and Instagram, Bert the Stormtrooper.
So it's just Bert the Stormtrooper. So Patriot Prime, please let people know how they can find you.
Well, hey, what's going on, guys? Patriot Prime here, and you can find me on my YouTube channel, Patriot Prime Reviews, Instagram, Patriot Prime Reviews, and Twitter, though I don't twit that often, Patriot Prime Reviews. I focus primarily on, of course, Transformers reviews. I delve into other products from time to time, do live shows, and just whatever else may strike my fancy. So that's me. Been on YouTube for about 3 years now.
Okay. So apparently we're sticking with the word twit rather than tweet. So up next is Stan Bush and Optimus Prime. Please let people know more about you.
It was you all along.
Wow, you
meddling
tricked us.
kids.
I bet you didn't expect. No, it's Brian from page 101, and this is it's the MP Prime that was in stop motions on this channel. He returns in full glory.
That is my MP10 that I sold to Brian.
It is. I stole it.
Yes,
they're both in Canada. So you can't steal in Canada.
That's true. We just friendly. He's just borrowing it indefinitely.
If you try hard enough, you can.
Interesting.
If you believe in fairies.
Nothing? Okay. Okay, so Brian, did you see where people can find you, or are we just going to run with the gag?
There's the name right somewhere around here.
Okay. So we're going with that. Okay, cool beans. So again, I'm Anthony Haslage. I am the COO of HashishNet Enterprises. You can find us on YouTube at HNE Games. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at a combination of either HNE Games or HashishNet Enterprises, depending on which. whichever they force me to use. So before I go, or before I start, I should say, please subscribe and like and follow all of these people online, not in person, because that would be creepy. And then, so let me explain to you the process. So for at least the next 90 minutes, we're going to talk about basically everything 2020 Transformers that is possible. We have a number of topics here we're going to go through, and each panelist will have an option to bring up a topic, and if multiple have that same topic, they can all jump on it, and it could be a pretty long conversation. If you post a comment in the host chat at the Lazy Eyebrow, the Lazy Eyebrow will. I was trying not to say it twice, but he will feature the chat, and if it's relevant to our conversation, we will, talk about it.
Wait,
so, what?
For instance, as an example, it's this one.
Good question. That's a good question. Which one?
Right out the gate.
Is it the people's eyebrow like the Rock?
hard-hitting questions?
I don't know, Brian. I can't answer that question.
Okay, so also just a reminder that on January 22nd, the Lazy Eyebrow and I will be back with another group of panelists where we'll be doing this similar thing. So that is 8 p.m. Friday, January 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So just keep that in mind. So after the first 90 minutes of this panel, we'll try to wrap up. Some of us have kids who have to go to bed. So we'll
kids who are already in bed.
Oh, well, yay for you. Wait a minute, they're in bed at 5 p.m.?
Hey, what time is it in Canada?
8 o'clock here.
Oh, that's
Why
right.
does everyone think
I forget
Canada has one time zone?
I don't know. Okay. But we may switch over to a Q&A format at that point, for in which I expect Bert and Rodimus pretty much to take up most of the time. And
Depends on the question asked.
Japanese robots in general that are not Transformers.
Yeah. Let's not dive into that because me and Bert can talk for hours about let's not go into it, dude.
okay. So then finally, the just because of spam, the chat has been limited to 30-second posts per person. So you only post once every 30 seconds. We're going to avoid certain real world topics because they're just inflammatory. So please don't bring those up. And if you have any recommendations, please at me or at HNE Games, and I will try to bring them up if they become a topic. So let's start with. I'm going to start with Rodimus and Fuge. Who else was it? It was It was Rodimus and the Lazy Eyebrow. Quality control on the War for Cybertron line. I know you both have a lot of input, and I think Patriot said he also had some ideas. So starting with Rodimus, who had probably, well, first off, Lazy Eyebrow did a huge video incorporating everybody's complaints. But I'm going to start with Rodimus because I feel like he can start this off a little bit more energy. Okay. So, Rodimus, tell us what your problems were with QA in 2020.
QC, not Q&A.
Oh, wow.
QA is quality assurance.
Oh man, Anthony, like seriously,
I'm gonna throw you into the fire, sir. Just do it.
Oh gosh. All right. So anyhow,
tell us about Blue Streak, good sir.
How about clear plastic and gold plastic?
Yeah, well, there's that issue. I mean, there are the two of us each put out our videos about the different problems that we had when it came down to the QC problems. A lot of it, I think, has to do. It's really good designs. A lot of us really love the stuff that is coming out of the Earthrise toy line, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the plastic that they're using, not just the clear plastic, but the regular plastic, but also just the design using certain parts in certain places that end up breaking a lot easier. And it's not just the Earthrise toy line. It's been, a few other, Transformers. A lot of people, commented on my video talking about their, some things from Cyberverse or their movie masterpiece stuff or the studio series. Like, it's just that their toys are have an easier time breaking. And I know a lot of that has to do with the fact that they had to move their manufacturing for cost from, I believe it's from China to Vietnam, and that particular manufacturing plant must be using a cheaper plastic. Also, probably again to save costs. There's a lot of hollow bits, in places. A lot of people don't like that. They don't like. I'll give an example, like Earthrise RC. I know a lot of people complain about her being a shell former, but look at the back of her legs. It's like I could deal with the shell forming part. I totally understand that they're trying to incorporate a certain transformation, but the parts that are hollow just don't. Yeah, they just don't look right. And because you try to pose these toys in different positions, and you end up seeing the back of them, and it doesn't look as good as it should. But then you have like toys like Earthrise Blue Streak, whose clear plastic is screaming to break, and I was not being I know a lot of people are saying I was ham-fisted with it. I was not ham-fisted with it. And when the windshield broke and I opened up Smokescreen, I didn't have the same problem.
No.
So it's kind of like a hit and miss kind of thing. So it tells me that it's not just me. It's also telling me that it's the quality of the plastic. And I also think that because of the location of the, where they're manufacturing it is probably why you see so many leaks earlier, but that's a whole nother discussion. So, but that's at least my whole problem with, the QC. How would you say it? The Lazy E, LTE.
TLE. It's like TLC, but
LZE sounds cooler.
I'm the LTE. I'm the Lazy the Eyebrow.
You're the TLE.
AMC, The Walking Dead.
Like my issues, it started when I went to go customize Ratchet Ironhide. It was when the windshield snapped off, and I'm like, I'm done. It was like there was so many other ones that once that happened, like that was the breaking point where that spawned the whole video, because I had seen your Blue Streak thing and I had seen a whole bunch of other people, and then I like put out feelers like, I've seen all this stuff, like send me what you got. I mean, the more the merrier. The bigger I can make this video, the more I can showcase like every figure. I'm sure it has thousands of issues, and I think the worst ones I saw was Console Culture. He was missing the entire trunk of his bug bite, and
wow.
And no one would do anything about it. It was like, well, we can send you a different figure for an entirely different line from Hasbro, and it's like that doesn't help me with my bug bite. That was an exclusive figure.
Yeah. And
then someone had their Sunstreaker that had 2 left heels, and I don't know how you screwed that one up, but they did.
Oh,
he only walks in circles.
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't know if anyone else is having problems with contacting Hasbro. I've been trying to get an email from them for the past month. I can contact them on Twitter. They're sending emails, but I haven't received anything. I tried 2 different emails.
You got to hit them up on the chat, on their Hasbro chat, and you will get kicked out multiple times. You just keep trying over and over again. And then if that fails, just call them directly. That's what I did with my Megatron.
I'm going to be calling them next week.
Yeah, prepare to be on hold for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
See, isn't that like telling about the QC though? Because like when I had my issue with Siege Optimus, and like I snapped it. I snapped the hip joint, and I told them about that. They replaced it, no issue, and it was no hassle. And this year, you can't get a hold of them because everyone's trying to, because everyone's having issues.
Yeah.
Same thing. I had an issue with Siege Jetfire, and they replaced it with another Siege. I had in my hand in 5 days. I got to keep the old broke Siege Jetfire, and they gave me a new one.
I was going to say, if you look on Hasbro Pulse on each of the individual product pages, almost all of them have people with QC issues. And what you said is the worst thing is by the time you have a problem, you can't get another toy.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's where my issue came in. If you guys saw my review, I ordered this guy in April, looking so forward to getting him because I'm a huge Megatron fan. And when he arrived, he had 2 left treads.
I've seen a lot of people with that. I'm afraid to open mine now.
Yeah, these wouldn't fit in. So I immediately contact Hasbro about it. And I told, like Brian said, I went on the chat And I talked to him, explained the whole thing. I took the pictures and I say, this is how it came. You know, it was all sealed up in the package. And what ticked me off the most is it's laid in there with those treads facing up. So whoever put it in the package saw that. But I know it's a bunch of people in a factory. They don't care. So Hasbro said, well, no problem. We'll send you a replacement. For my $60 Super Megatron, they sent me a $20 smokescreen figure.
No.
Fortunately, a subscriber of mine.
And it was Siege smokescreen.
Yeah, Siege smokescreen. Yeah. A subscriber of mine saw my issue and hooked me up with this guy. But that's not all. As right after this guy arrived, I got that Transformers 10th anniversary Hades Megatron. Beautiful figure. Great chrome on it. He comes with those 2 Arms Microns figures. So I put the Arms Microns together, and as soon as I transformed them the first time, they broke in 2 places. Once again, I contact Hasbro about it, and I found out if it's a Hasbro Pulse exclusive, you will not get a replacement for that. They will not replace an exclusive figure. So I just packed mine back for a refund, and today a subscriber hooked me up. He felt bad because I didn't have a Prime Megatron, and he got me this Sharkticon Megatron. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's a great one.
Okay, so we got a question from Robot80. So since we're talking about QC issues, maybe some tips on how to fix serious issues such as the clear plastic breaking or major miscoloring.
Well, I can go from firsthand experience with the 2 that I had a major issue with, and that was Earthrise Skywarp, which is pretty much any of the Seekers, and my Earthrise Blue Streak. I actually got a replacement for my Earthrise Blue Streak by somebody. Someone was kind enough to send me another one, but I still have that in the box. But the one that's broken, I actually glued the windshield back onto the back red plastic piece where it's supposed to go, with the actual hooks that were broken kind of like wedged in there, so it still transforms. It's fine, but part of it kind of gets caught, but it still works. Like, you're still able to transform it, you're still able to pose it. You know, that was the issue with that one. And then the Seekers, there's a flashing issue with the plastic, so I just got an X-Acto knife and I scraped it out. And as I was scraping it, that's what actually ended up getting the making the room that was necessary for the wings to clip in properly. But to make sure that it stays in, I got a little piece of cardboard and I stuck it in between the peg, so that when the wing sticks in there, the piece is wedged so it's a little bit wider. And that's what ended up working really well, at least for my Seeker wing. So if I can actually I'll go and get my my Skywarp real quick. I
feel like a lot of these Transformers toys are getting rushed in development, because you notice that, for example, on Run Amok, the chest scrapes the ground, and then I'm noticing that panels, it's so tight, or like you have to bend and warp the plastic to get something to actually function and properly go in. It's just take another look at it and see the issues, but no, let's just put it out.
Oops.
Okay, because I thought it was just me, because the fake tires on Runamuck Runabout and the front piece always drag while I'm trying. I can never get all 4 tires on the ground at the same time.
So if you want to bring, I don't know if you're able to bring that up a little bit, but
can you go full screen?
Let's see. I can try this.
Wrong person.
Oh,
hi everybody.
Okay.
Ew! There we go.
There. Let's see if I can move this over here.
Got to click on me.
No, I didn't. That's just exit full screen.
You can do it. We believe in you.
Be like I did. First person I tried to blow up on my chat, I deleted him.
Hey, there we go. I figured it out.
So if you can see there, I glued the windshield itself to the plastic piece, so it still transforms, but it's glued,
right?
To the actual piece there. And even though the hooks are broken here, that's what actually ended up fixing it to make it work. And he could still transform. He could still do what he needs to do. It's still kind of a pain in the butt to get that in there. And then with the Seeker wing, which I have the nice non-F, missiles on.
Those do
But
look awesome.
the wing here, you can kind of tell how tight that is on that one. I think
That's the one where you shave the plastic, right?
What's that?
This is the one where you shave the plastic, right?
Yeah, this is the one I shaved the plastic.
Where
Actually,
exactly did you shave it? Because I have that problem with my Thundercracker.
yeah, I shaved it right here.
Okay.
Because if you look at the two wings, if your one wing is staying on and the other wing is not, it's kind of hard to see. Let me see if I can get the light. There we go. You can kind of see there is a groove like here. And there we go. And I scraped that out. And because if it's not staying in, you're going to want to scrape that out a little bit, because the other wing, I don't have that issue. It's staying in there really tight. And then I put a piece of cardboard.
One side stays in and the other one pops up.
Yep. And so I put a piece of cardboard in the middle of that one in order to keep it there. But at the same time, by using an X-Acto knife, I was able to scrape out the flashing. And you don't have to go that deep. I went a little bit, very deep. I might need to go a little bit wider here in order to actually do it. Okay. And that's what fixed it.
Yeah, I heated the mushroom peg on mine with some boiling water, and then I wedged it so that it would split up a little more.
Right.
And that helped because it helped in so much that when I got them out of the package, that wing would just fall off. If you just picked up the figure and held it up like this, the wing would just fall off on its own.
Yep.
Now it doesn't do that. It stays on until you go to move it to transform it, and then it just flies off. So widening the peg helped some, but not enough. And I just never went back to do anything with it. So I
just use an X-Acto knife. It literally takes you like a minute or two.
Sure.
To scrape it out. So, and once it's done, it's good. So, and you'll notice, you'll look at both of the pegs on the wings where it's falling off, and that's where you'll notice, the difference between the two wings and where you need to scrape.
Okay.
So,
in regards to fixing other figures, it's just, I don't know, like you can paint things obviously, but I mean, like in my personal case, if something breaks, like for instance that windshield on Ratchet, I'm just designing a new one and 3D printing it.
Yeah. It's such a case by case kind of a thing.
It is, yeah.
Probably the most common issue that I get is
Patriot Prime's got it. Sorry,
and
continue.
And loose joints are easy to fix. I keep a clear nail polish and I just fix loose joints with that. But
yeah,
it is case by case. It just depends on what broke and or what's not working, and that's how you're going to get to it.
Okay.
A lot of times, reviewers, if it's a common issue. And I don't remember who asked the question in the chat, but if it's a common issue and that's something that's happening to a lot of people, reviewers usually start putting up fixes on YouTube. So you can also YouTube that, and you can find a fix to address that specific problem that you're finding.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay, because I had two questions. One by Ian1231100 asking how to deal with stress marks, and then I also have a question from Necro Sector says, what about mold issues with Skytread flywheels tank mode? So you're saying that if they just did a general search in YouTube, that they should be able to find a solution?
If it's a common issue, a lot of times, yes. Things like stress marks, a lot of people will tell you to hit it with a hair dryer, just heat it up, and that will fade the stress mark away some. You just got to be careful how much heat and how much time you hold it, because I have had a lot of success using heat guns and using hair dryers on figures and using boiling water. I've had a lot of success fixing stuff using those methods, and I have also destroyed toys using those methods. You have to be really careful on the time and the temperatures.
I tend to go with the boiling water because there's less a chance you can actually melt the plastic. And I learned a lot of that with NECA figures. If you collect NECA, it requires boiling water to get the joints to where you can pose them.
Yeah. The biggest problem I'm having with my NECA Gremlins is that they come out of the box and the joints are so tight. You really got to massage them and work them to get them working. One of my stripe figures, the ear broke off right out of the box. And once I get them they're super tight when I get them out of the box. And then I get them on their little stands. I put them on their shelf. And then a week later, it's like the clock runs out. All the joints get super weak and they start falling over. Just walk in the room and they all fall over. It's ridiculous.
Little paint actually made Earthrise RC not so floppy. You know, her feet are not flopping at all, and I cut off the back of her heels, so you know that helped out a little bit. The other thing is that people have been complaining about is this guy. Great toy,
Right.
great toy. But people have an issue with the pegs, and I haven't had an issue. I know
I haven't had an issue either.
I
Right.
shaved the hole a little wider because they were stuck in there.
Just
So
take
once
a
I got
nail
them
file
out, I shaved the holes.
I was
and
just
shave
mine
out, you know.
straight out, no problem whatsoever.
Yeah, I just massaged it the first couple of times. I was just real careful and just kind of wiggled it back and forth until it came out. Worked in and out a couple of times, and then after a few times, it goes in and out just fine. I don't have any problems with it. Okay, delayed reaction.
I don't care.
Delayed reaction. Sorry.
Like for me, I didn't even know there was an issue. I was manhandling Grapple the entire time I was filming with it, and
I
then
never had an issue either. But
yeah, all of a sudden comments started showing up saying, "Be careful." I'm like, "What?" I still have never had an issue. Not even a stress mark, but so many people have had it shear off.
yeah,
I think what it was is a lot of people would pull at an angle.
Mhm.
Those did go in tight, but if you pull straight out, it was no problem whatsoever, because I was messing around with mine for about a week before I even reviewed it, and all over Facebook is pictures of broken pegs. It's like, well, I guess I just lucked out, but then I got to thinking about it. I would always pull mine just straight out, no angle whatsoever.
Could also be like just a case of a bad batch of plastic, and all of a sudden,
I actually just barely put the plugs in when I started off with that grapple toy, and I guess it loosened up the hole enough to where I could put it in all the way now, and it's fine.
Exactly.
That was a unique look right there. It kind of freaked me out. All of a sudden, this head pops in.
Ryan camo.
The most frustrating issue that I've had in relatively short history was with the Cybertron Optimus Prime. Was that Siege? Cybertron Optimus Prime.
that was Siege. Yeah.
So it took forever for me to find one. I finally get one. I get it out of the box, and there's a clip on his leg where that panel from the trailer clips into in robot mode, completely missing. It was just not there. So I took it back to the store. I had it replaced with the only other figure they had in the store. I get it home, and one of the window stickers was missing. So he had like a blue window and a red window because the sticker was just not there. And it took me like a week to find a third one to replace it, which finally didn't have any issues. So that was probably the most frustrating experience I've had in recent times.
Okay, so Bacon, the overall design of the War for Cybertron toy line, how do you feel it compares to the Prime Wars trilogy, or perhaps any other previous generation's toy line?
Well, it's interesting you ask, because I was just looking at Combiner Wars and some of the Titans Return stuff, and I think this time they actually went and tried to do it properly, G1, like a literal translation from if we were going to take the G1 toy and modernize it.
Mm-hmm.
Combiner Wars, like you look at that wheeljack compared to the to the War for Cybertron wheeljack, they're like, the Combiner Wars one is kind of a joke. So partially because they had to have it combined, but I think they've got the aesthetic right on here. Like on the Leader Prime, it feels like they reinvented the original G1 figure and try to kind of maintain that aesthetic by also improving the figure at the same time. And,
I was going to say Springer, I thought was spectacular.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And something I also noticed, I don't know if other people noticed, but the War for Cybertron stuff, the plastic feels a little bit rubberized. It's a little softer, but tougher, and it poses better. When I go back and I play with some of the other toys from Titans Return or Combiner Wars, or even stuff, in the Authentics line, it all feels kind of real brittle in a way, real dry.
General plastic.
And very cheap, but they seem to want to have a good hand feel with the War for Cybertron stuff.
Yeah, back there I have Victorion, and it's the only toy of her, but she doesn't stay together well. Like the pegs don't peg together right. You know, some parts of like the arms like just don't like because of the way the limbs are supposed to transform into limb mode, or it doesn't like the legs separate. Like if I use one of the cars, and it's like, you know, it's so loose, and it's like, what do I do? Like you can't even do much about it in order to actually make it better. And you know, like how do they improve upon that? You really can't. So
I just reconfigure it to helicopter arms, but still, that's if you want the car arms, then you kind of that's your issue.
Yeah, it's a difficult choice on either one, because also the hands don't stay in there. You know, like because the hands don't stay in, no matter which way you do it, like it becomes a problem. And she also doesn't stand up very well at all.
Speaking of Big Time Nerd 1990 says, what's the best way to fix a discolored or yellow plastic my Combiner Wars Superior has? And it's never even seen the sun, he says.
Or it's already yellowed?
Yeah, that's a no.
And sometimes that happens. I've had one specific example that comes to mind. Back when I used to collect Star Wars, the 12-inch figures, I bought a clone trooper, never saw the light of day, and he was up on my shelf next to 3 other clone troopers, and there was the one that the helmet went completely yellow in about a year. It just happens sometimes. It depends on the mix that they use for the plastic. They put a chemical in these plastics that's it's supposed to be a fire or a flame retardant, so that they don't burn as quickly. And that's the chemical that turns things yellow. I have done some videos where I have retrobrighted stuff, so you can look that up. I collect and repair vintage computers like Commodores, Ataris, that kind of stuff. Cool. And typically those are very yellowed because they come from original households that used to smoke in them. And then I've also done a couple of Kenner Ecto ones that I've re-whitened or retrobrighted. The method that works for me is I have a clear plastic tub with a clear lid. I go to Sally's. If you have a Sally's beauty supply store in your area, I buy something that's called Salon Care 40. It's a hydrogen peroxide mix. It's in liquid, and I mix it 50-50 with water in the tub, and I put all my plastic pieces in there, and I just leave it out in the Florida sun for about a week, and it just turns everything right back white again. You want to be careful if you have red parts, because from what I've heard, I haven't experienced this yet, but from what I've heard, it'll fade reds. It doesn't fade other colors. Like I also did my Ghostbusters Firehouse, and it didn't damage any of the colors, but I was also careful not to throw any reds in there. I've been told that reds can fade using that method. I have a G1 Jetfire that is in sore need of retrobrighting, and I haven't done it because of all the red on them.
Okay. So, Lazy, thoughts on the design for War for Cybertron?
Oh, I've been loving all of them. I mean, there's been a few of them that I just kind of scoff at, RC in particular. But I mean, like, when Siege was first a thing, I thought these are great. Like, I thought they were a lot better than Combiner Wars, just in terms of the aesthetics. And then Earthrise hit, and I'm like, this is exactly what I've been wanting out of Generations for 10 years. It's just a shame it's just been breaking.
I have a Siege collection in the other room, and it's so good that I decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and get the big Omega Supreme, because sometimes I don't usually get the big ones. I like the small deluxes and Voyagers and stuff like that. But I decided to buy it, and that's the most I ever paid for a figure.
It's worth it, isn't it? It's
definitely.
Like the best Omega Supreme.
I have
a
them
good
on
point. I think in this world of $100+ 3P figures and masterpieces, all of that Earthrise stuff is really a good value. I mean, it's probably why it's flying off the shelves like crazy.
Yeah, so good.
Like when I had my first collection,
goes a long way.
That's true.
There are exceptions,
right?
Like when I had my first collection, I was collecting Masterpiece to do stop motions with, and it was like a really slow collecting process because, like, you know, I could only really get one to augment the collection every 3 or 4 months. This has been like 3 every month type thing, and in a year, I had more characters to film with than I had the entire Masterpiece collection of 5 years for like half the budget.
Okay, so
Doctorus Prime made an interesting point there. Is it because of COVID, the bad QC and all? I honestly think that kind of is the big contributing factor. Personally, I think that the Q stuff is coming out and coming out faster than it needs to, and they're doing it with a lesser staff because, even though they were able to keep up production, they did it with less staff. And they didn't have as many people checking the QC. Like, so if a toy comes out defective, instead of sending it back, they just ship it out. So, yeah.
So I have a question by Motion Blaster 705. Says, how do you fix the loose hinge joint? Also, does rolling issues and scratch paint out of the box count as a QC issue? Thank you. So I would answer that it depends on if it's shipped with the scratches and the paint, because I have to assume that somebody has to be looking at the end product before it goes into packaging, right? That's typically how quality control works. But because of what Rodimus just said and I agree, COVID, they pretty much had all these people get sick and bring in people that are probably temporary workers who haven't had experience with doing whatever this is, and who just pushing out products as fast as they can, because there was probably a good chance that at first the countries in Asia, much like how we ended up here in the United States starting in February, everything just shut down for months. And what happens is you get a backlog of orders, then you got to fill them as fast as possible. For example, Hasbro Pulse continued shipping product throughout the year, but I don't know if any of you guys have noticed. Originally, at the beginning of this year, Hasbro Pulse took almost 2 months to send out product. Mm-hmm. For the exception of the pit was real quick, but everything else seemed to take forever.
They seem to be catching up, because I'm noticing a lot anymore. It's like every other day, back in stock. Like the Super Megatron, the day I get my smoke screen in the mail, he's back up in stock on the shop. So, and I think COVID definitely played a part in the distribution of our figures too, because look how we got Wave 1 in droves. Wave 2 was near impossible to find. Then you get Wave 3, and now Kingdom's here. So
I was in the store the other day, and no joke, they had a Siege Chromia and an Earthrise mini pack and a Kingdom Cyclonus all on the shelves right next to each other. And that's 3 lines across 3 years, same store, one time.
Wow. My Walmart had Wave 2 recently as well. They had the Ironhide 6-gun Prowl and Chromia. Which is weird, because I think they were supposed to have the Refractor Wave, and nope, instead.
One comment by Delmus is actually pretty funny. I wonder if Hasbro will come out with a COVID line. Well, speaking of that, have you seen they're doing the rusted carcass, the Sparkless for Barricade or whatever?
Yes,
Cosmic Rust figure right there.
Yeah, Big Time Nerd 1990 says it's weird that it's the back of the figure, but he is in a bookcase, so his back shouldn't be affected. I see more issues on maybe parts you don't necessarily see than I do on the visible front, and maybe that is also a form of skimping. So, they just kind of, we're worried about the aesthetics of the front, and if we screw up the back, it's not a big deal. I did a recent review of Thrust, and it had a little bit of wear on the joints in the feet, and you know how the little pieces of metal that hold everything together kind of stick out the back. It was a little messed up. They messed up the plastic a little bit, but it was in the back. So I have to assume that the person at quality control was like, well, you know what, it's not at the front, so let's pass it along. I think that is...
You're talking about right here?
Yes, that is it.
My Urge was messed up like that.
I recently got a hold of Skipjack and the arm joint that.
Oh my goodness!
Oh God!
Let me say it again, Bert. Jeez.
Just firing pins left and right, man.
Wow.
Sandstorm here. He's real bad.
The joint at the top of the arm for Skipjack to rotate around in Devastator mode, that joint was completely warped and messed up. And I know that because when rotating it, the whole thing broke because it was stuck in there.
No kidding. Was it skipjack or was it the red version that came out that had like a test piece that was upside down?
It's the skipjack. It's
Skipjack
on the arm. So
Okay,
It's
so
difficult to imagine, but if you've ever built a Flame Toys model kit, all of these toys come out on sprues. You have multiple stages of people first sitting around and building heads all day long and arms and feet, and they get passed down the line. And so it's kind of amazing. The toy comes to you and it feels like it was never on a sprue and all that kind of stuff. You know, they feel like, you know, they're crisp and brand new, but generally they've gone through a lot of handwork. Somebody had to cut each piece off and put the legs together and the arms together and test that it would transform and things like that. I bet a lot of wear and tear happens on just how proficient the assembler is.
Someone, I can't remember who it was. It's
kind of like McDonald's, you know, some days you get the new guy.
And someone brought up a good point in that Earthrise garbage video I made, where back in the old days of like 2010 era, things came shipped in vehicle mode. So it's like the people assembling these things had to transform it once to see if it worked, and they don't do that anymore because people only want robot mode in the first place.
And they don't. The way that QC works in the modern day factory environment, exactly like Bacon said, you've got a line of people, and you know the first one's up in the line, they're building the heads, the next one are building the arms and whatnot. So everybody puts a different piece together. By the time it gets to the end of the line, you've got a built figure. Out of every built figure that gets to the end of the line, they'll pick out of every 20 figures, they'll grab one and transform it to see if it works. And that one figure spoke for the other 19. I mean, and I don't know that the numbers, I'm just using that as an example, but I've been in those production type environments. I've been a repair tech myself I've been a bench tech, and the equipment would come through, we would fix it. And by the time I got to QC, 90% of our work was being taken at our word that we fixed it. Only 10% of it was being actually tested and sent back out to stores.
There's actually a quick funny story. I got the Studio Series Drift, the helicopter one, and one of the screws had messed up and pretty much shattered one of the joints. I could still get it to kind of stick in there, but it pops off pretty easily. And so I contacted Hasbro, and they couldn't send back the Drift, but they sent in Studio Series Sideswipe. And I was pretty happy about that one, actually, because Sideswipe skipped my stores. So.
Okay, so Lazy, since Stop Motion Formera paid $4.99, you need to answer this question. So would you enjoy having some old figure redone, but with better quality and better articulation? He also loves us all, I guess. Okay, so any Stop Motion tips?
Buddy.
I would love Drift. I mean, like, that was a good figure back in the day, but to have a new one with ankle articulation, that'd be epic.
Okay, so Bacon. Oh, so Bacon. What was your opinion on the assortment of War for Cybertron product? As far as like we compare it to Prime Wars. I dropped into Prime Wars when it was already in the second set. Does it seem like War for Cybertron just has a lot more product?
It's hard to say.
Does that count selects though?
I don't know. That was just what was. Do you feel like the assortment of WFC product was better than the previous?
Oh well, I mean, it was kind of broken up more. I think the Titans Return was very different from the Combiner Wars, where it feels like the War for Cybertron is more linear, right? Even the difference between the Earth mode and the Cybertron mode toys are very consistent.
Okay. So running with that, then, Ian.
So I think overall it's a better line if that's what you wanted to hear.
All right. So Ian 1231100 said, "What are your best finds of the year?" So we'll start with Lazy. What was the best find of the year for you?
That's a fantastic question. I have no idea.
I'll come back to you then, because then I'll ask Bacon. What was your best find of the year?
Well, it was on my top 10 list here. My favorite toy or my best find? How do we?
He just said Ian asked for your best find, so I assume anything in the WFC or Transformers in general.
Well, I would have to say the Leader Prime.
Leader Prime. Okay, Rodimus, what was your best find?
That's a tough one. Because like a lot of stuff recently I've been all finding online. I haven't been finding it in stores.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I'm saying. Like I haven't really found anything, more of just like, yeah, I want that, thank you.
Right. And like I think instead I wouldn't say best find, I would say like the fact that fans have been so awesome in that, you know, whether they have been in just giving it or if I, you know, paid them to send it to me because I couldn't find it in my own store. It has been awesome, you know, that to me, and just the fact that so many, you know, fans have just been like, you know, people, you know, whether in the chat or they watch my show, have been awesome about that, and that I would say has been, you know, my way of saying it. So it's like buying Transformers that remain on a GoBot budget. Although they want to make so many, and they only have so many they can put in the line. And I think there was supposed to be a wave 4 for Earthrise, and it only ended up being 3 waves, right? So it got cut short because of COVID. So half of it all went to Stilex.
Well, I was going to say real quick before Lazy goes in was it probably didn't hurt that Hasbro sent you a big box of goodies.
You had to bring that one up.
Yeah, there was that one too. You know, as much as I am appreciative of the Hasbro box, I'm more appreciative of the fan ones that got sent to me. Like when someone actually I think is in the chat is the one that sent me the Thundercracker and Skywarp. Another one sent me the Soundwave, the Netflix Soundwave, which that is an awesome toy. So
look at me, I'm Rodimus Primal. I have fans. Ooh.
Okay, George, go ahead. What did you figure out?
Being appreciative of people who are awesome. That's why.
Okay, first off, my wife texted me while I was thinking, and she's right. My best find is my wife, but that wasn't this year, so that doesn't count. So first off, I think it was in February, a comic shop near me, they were selling Siege Jetfire for $80 Canadian, which is like 60 American. And I was like, sold, sure. And I ended up trading in a few of the Studio Series Constructicons because I wasn't happy with how it was turning out. So in total, I think I spent $10 and walked out with the Siege Jetfire brand new in box. And then the other find was the Paradron Medics kit wasn't sold Amazon Canada, and you couldn't switch to another Amazon to find it. But someone sent me a backdoor link to pre-order it, and then after I pre-ordered it, I wasn't allowed to see it after that, and then it just showed up one day. So I'm going to say that's the best find of the year.
Okay. So Bert, your best find?
I think the one that I find the most astounding and that I just think makes a cool story was the fact that I was able to find both Runabout and Thrust at my local Target on the shelf. And I didn't have to do any online ordering or haggling or any of that. I'm really happy to be able to say that I did that. But the distribution has been so terrible. And so, since we're throwing out appreciations for people, I want to call out 2 people in particular. Jason, who's here with us, Patriot Prime, and another buddy of mine, Lazy Jedi. He's in the chat. At least he was a minute ago. I don't know if he's still here or not. But because of the way distribution works and stuff is just not being distributed evenly across different regions, Jason and I and Lazy Jedi and I, we find figures for each other all the time. And Jason and I talk almost daily. I'll call him from Target. Hey, I'm looking at such and such figure. Do you need it? Do you want it? And we pick stuff up for each other on a daily basis. So very cool that we're in a kind of community where we can do that kind of stuff. And I'm really appreciative to Jason and the Lazy Jedi for that.
So Patriot, best find.
My best find is you guys. I've enjoyed this stuff so much this last year.
Stop lying.
But seriously,
He wants something.
no, my best finds were not Transformers. Because, as I've mentioned on my channel many, many times, I live in Podunk, West Virginia. I have one Walmart. My nearest Target is 2 hours away. So everything I get is online. So it's really not a hunt for me, though I did luck out and found the two Soundwaves, Netflix Soundwaves. I got one for me and one for Bert. But what I really enjoyed picking up this year was two characters from my childhood that really had an impact on me that I didn't know had toys that existed. And one was this Diamond Selects Maximilian from the movie The Black Hole, a very old movie, a movie that scared me to death as a kid. It doesn't look great today. Bert can agree with that. But when I saw this as a kid, the only robots I was familiar with was R2-D2 and C-3PO. Then this guy comes out of nowhere, and he's got these big drill blades on his hand, and I watch him drill into a guy and kill a guy. Here I am, 8 years old, watching a robot just gut this dude. So this guy here scared me to death. And then finding a giant figure of him just made my day. So I was really happy to find that guy. And another one.
Sub-Zero. Now no total zero.
Speaking of that, another favorite that I have been wanting for years, and every time I saw one online, it was always going for $100 to $150, was the NECA T800 Terminator. This is the police assault Terminator. This is the one in the leather jacket and the sunglasses.
Dun, 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 dun.
Known for when you think of the Terminator.
Let me get the Uzi 9mm.
What's that?
Let me get the Uzi 9mm.
It's not a tumor.
With 40 watt range. But
Sarah Connor.
Terminator coming out in 84. Transformers coming out in 84. I mean, these two robots here, or those coming out in the same year, just solidified my love of plastic robots. So
I love that everybody's commenting childhood trauma at your Maximilian figure.
The Transformers Terminator crossover comic is pretty good. So we're going to move on to Brian. Brian, what is your find for the year?
It's my turn. Yay!
Now I screwed up, pulled a NECA figure off the shelf. It'll take me forever to even stand back up.
For me, I guess, because my stores are garbage, it's Off-Road Bumblebee, because it was the only time I actually found it. Transformers-wise that I actually found, as far as people who've actually helped out and sent stuff, I think it would probably be Danny Dolphin, who sent me a hot link, because the Netflix stuff, for some reason, is not out here. We don't have any of them, which is weird, because our Walmart usually has stuff, but nope, this year apparently they just really didn't want to. But if it's not Transformers wise, then it's probably this.
Oh dang!
What's this?
It's a UNSC Pelican, or Pelican Inbound as the set's called, and it usually goes for, I think, $200 out here, and I paid $150, and it came out this year. And it's a big one.
Okay, so mine is like literally I went into Target expecting nothing because my Targets rarely get anything. I'd have to drive into Cleveland to get decent things. But my local Target actually had these two.
Wow. Nice.
They had 6 of each and then had some in the back. And they actually asked me, did you want to buy them all? And I almost said yes. But they sold out within an hour after I left the store, so I can't buy any for anybody else. Sorry.
I've seen people like army building their the blue one.
Scourge,
yes.
They're hot rods.
Army building.
No, I'm building Rodimus.
My army of hot rods.
Okay, so Big Time Nerd 1990 chimes in with Siberian being a mix of red and white, what is your best suggestion to fix him? So either Lazy or Bert. Bert was also CC'd.
Oh, don't buy it.
Wow.
So I got a question though about the Superion. He said, is like the whole thing yellowing, or is it just silver bolt, or what?
I'm waiting to see if he replies in the chat.
Well, we'll wait. In the meantime,
Which Superion was this again? Titans Return?
Yeah,
or
it was Combiner Wars.
Combiner Wars.
I hate to say it, what I do a lot is just troll eBay for a junker. You know, somebody always has one figure with no parts that nobody wants to buy, and I can just swap it out.
You can get it in blue and don't worry about the white.
I've got that G1 Jetfire that I have not been brave enough to do because of the amount of red on him, and I've been trying to think of what I can do to correct it. One thing that I'm thinking of, well, the solution that I use is based on light. Okay, the actual UV rays combined with the chemicals is what causes the plastic to kind of age in reverse back to its original state. So 2 things about that. Number 1, the yellowing effect will start again. The only thing you're doing is reversing the clock back to basically reset, and then it starts moving forward again. So eventually it will yellow again. On my Ecto 1, you can start seeing a little bit of it. On some of my computers, you can start seeing a little bit of it. With time and UV in the air, it's going to start yellowing again eventually, especially if you got a lot of that, a heavy mix of that retardant in that plastic. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The other thing, because it is UV based, I've been wondering, and I don't know this to be the truth, so I'm still kind of seeing if I can find any answers on this myself. But I kind of have a theory that if I cover up all the red parts with tape very carefully so that the light doesn't hit it, it might be able to protect it. But I don't know that for sure. Again, I haven't been brave enough to try it yet.
That's what I did with mine. I actually took this guy apart. I sit there and took apart and took pictures of the process, so I made sure I got him back together. I taped up the red parts, and I got this guy looking glorious.
What kind of tape did you use?
Blue painter's tape.
Painter's tape, perfect.
Have masking tape?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Mine looks fine.
I've heard of people using whitening gel.
That's what I used.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like that peroxide gel Bert was talking about, but it's thicker, so you can apply it.
Yeah, the gel works okay. 2 things about the gel, and it's kind of the reason I don't use it, because for me personally, I'm usually doing bigger projects with them. Like again, the Kenner Ecto 1 is this big, so it's a lot of surface. The computers are this big, so it's a lot of surface. The thing with the gel is you have to try and get it on there as evenly as possible. Then you have to wrap it up with clear saran wrap so that it doesn't evaporate. Mm-hmm. And if you don't get it just right, you're going to get a swirling effect in the plastic where you'll get more white and more in areas and a little more yellow in others.
Is that G1
the liquid method?
Bacon? Is that
we're
the
talking
G1?
about, Bert, about how some white parts have different mixtures of stuff in them. This thing has been in my closet for 20-some years. It's hard to see, but there's some pieces that are not faded at all, and one's right next to them that are faded.
Yep. Look, I can see the difference
in the dark. White stuff will turn yellow even without light on it.
Yep.
I really want to fix this. It's almost mint. The box is like
sealed.
Fix my
That's
Super
just
Nintendo.
nature. That's just basically physics. There's nothing you can do about that. It's a chemical reaction based on the chemicals that they put into the plastic and how they react to UV rays. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Rodimus, did you just say Super Nintendo?
Yeah, I would love to do that to my Super Nintendo.
It was like the first 3 years of the Super Nintendo was like that. Then they changed the composition of the upper plastic.
I have two Super Nintendos, and they're both the top pieces that is like turned a different color.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And on those grays are safe. You can pop those, you can submerge those, and those will be fine. They're not going to discolor.
All right.
The MP2 Ultra Magnets Masterpiece has that problem. It'll yellow really easily.
Mm-hmm.
Even
I've never had an issue with that, like ever. Maybe it's just the Canadian air.
It's just depends on the mixture on the specific part. Like I was saying, I got back in the day, I bought a couple of 12-inch clone troopers all at the same time, all at the same store. They all went up on the same shelf, and one of them, the helmet went yellow in less than a year. You know, and just the helmet, not the body. It was just weird.
And I guess if all else fails, you can paint it. I mean, paint's going to stay white pretty much, but it's just a matter of tearing it apart and painting it.
Okay, so Patriot question. Doctorus Prime says, I missed out on a lot of Transformer figures and I want to start collecting. Is there any starting figures or sets which are perfect to start collecting with?
Well, the way I look at it, if you're just starting into right now, now's a good time to do it. You've got some great reimaginings of the Transformer characters that kickstarted all of our collections. I think we're all about the same age. If not, I apologize.
2020 aged me quite a bit. I think I'm around 300. I lost count.
But I think now's a perfect time. You've got a great Optimus Prime on the shelf. You got a great Bumblebee. The Seekers are really good. You know, if you look out and you don't get the QC issues, there are great representations of iconic figures in the line right now. Though I would skip out on Earthrise Megatron for Siege Megatron.
Oh, I am the opposite of that.
Really?
Oh, yeah, I love the Earthrise
out of the box.
But that being said, I mean, I think this paint job on the Earthrise Megatron looks fantastic. It works for this mold more than I think the G1 style.
I can't wait to get that figure.
Oh,
I mean,
sorry,
go ahead.
go ahead. Oh, what I was saying was, it's actually a really good question. Is when it's starting? I sold all my collection, and I didn't actually I started from scratch collecting figures again a year and a half ago, and I've got a ton of figures, and they're like the best representations I have, short of Masterpiece, and for like, what is it, a quarter of the price almost? Some of them even more than that.
Yeah, Big Time Nerd 1990 on the follow-up to the Superion question says it was just different sections of his back that were miscolored. So anyway, Bacon, if you had to restart your collection right now, what would you start with?
With the current line.
Well, yes, but what
Like
figures?
Patriot Prime said.
Bacon collects everything, though.
No, actually, I don't. I just collect Optimus Prime.
There you go.
Okay, Rodimus, what's a figure?
Approve this message.
Well, you know what's good? I will say this much. I really like the fact that, like, I mean, the Siege Optimus Prime, or not Siege Optimus Prime, the Earthrise Optimus Prime is also in Kingdom. So if you missed out on him in Earthrise, you can still get him. And that is a great Optimus Prime toy. You know, other than the fact that his chest, I mean, his arms can't like go deep into his chest. Like that's like my one issue with him. But other than that, he's a great toy. The Kingdom one, which is the same one as the Earthrise one, comes with the trailer. The Netflix one doesn't come with the trailer, but comes with 2 weaponizers. So it's really up to you which one you want to go with. Personally, I went with the trailer because we even back as far back as 2006, we haven't had a trailer for a Classics Optimus Prime toy. And from there, it's a matter of like what characters you want to collect. Bumblebee is on the shelf with the Netflix lines along with Soundwave, if you can find them. But then a lot of the Earthrise toys that have come out that are classic characters are actually really good toys. All of the ones that I've collected so far have been phenomenal, with a few exceptions. You know, some need some TLC. Like I'll give an example. RC is one that I think is a decent toy, and she's sitting here because I wanted to show off the fact that I gave her a paint job, but that was the only way that I think that she works. But other than that, there's a lot of stuff out there. If you want that Cyclonus toy, like that Cyclonus toy looks phenomenal in Kingdom.
That's the best Cyclonus figure I've ever seen in my life.
It's just awesome. Just I can't wait to get it. I can't wait to get it. So there's that one. There's,
I transformed it for the first time. And
if you're a Beast Wars fan, you know what's really good is Earthrise is still kind of on the shelf. You can still kind of get some of the Earthrise stuff online. And then Kingdom is coming out. So if you were a Beast Wars fan, it's like double whammy. A lot of stuff that's come out, like the Cheetor, the Black Arachnia, the Optimus Primal, the Megatron, all that stuff. So if you're a big Beast Wars fan, and if you're a G1 fan, you're getting a lot of love right now. And then the Studio Series. Oh my good God, the Studio Series 86.
I can't wait to get my hands on that hot rod. You know, for the longest time, this has been, as far as I'm concerned, this has been a near perfect hot rod / Rodimus Prime figure. I love everything about this figure. I love everything it does. And then I saw that Studio Series hot rod, and I was looking at pictures of it next to pictures of this guy in just hot rod mode, and I'm like, oh my God, you're making me fall out of love with this.
But here's the thing, and I love that figure too, and I customized mine too. I painted the hubcaps, and I got the Toyhacks labels. But
yep,
yep. And then, but the thing is like that hot rod just looks awesome. And then they're doing a commander class. Apparently, this is rumor. They're doing a commander class,
Rodimus
Prime in Kingdom.
Yeah,
and
commander class.
You know me. I mean, the thing is like for my love for Rodimus is very different than a lot of other people because a lot of people hate the character. So my love for him is for the fact that you need a character. And we're getting food.
Is today a Canadian Thanksgiving holiday?
No. What is this?
I mean, I would thank Tia fan page if he could just teleport some of that my way, but
all right. Okay, so we're gonna
Wonka Vision.
Okay, so George, on to the Studio 86 series. We have a question from Super Ponage Gigan. Says, what's all your guys' thoughts about Studio Series Bayverse and Studio Series Bumblebee, aka the Robot Verse? And of course, I want to talk about Studio 86 more. So what are your thoughts on those series?
They've been fantastic for the most part. I think some of them have just been bleh. Like I didn't like Dropkick Helicopter mode. That was pretty trash. And I haven't really liked any of the ROTF or the Peterbilt Optimus figures. I haven't really enjoyed personally. But everything else I find has just been one hit after another.
Okay, so Patriot, thoughts on the
the
Studio Series?
I love that one.
Well, I'm not that big of a Studio Series collector, though I did get all the Studio Series Bumblebee figures because I really liked the characters in that movie. I just thought they were so much better fleshed out than the Bayverse versions. But that being said, I have all the Studio Series Megatrons. I really like that. It's so odd what my name is with the channel, but I'm a huge Megatron fan. So,
hey, Rodimus, is that the trailer of the Power of the Primes, Rodimus?
It is, and you notice that it's different labels that I have on him.
Yeah, I got the same labels, but I'm liking your wheels, man.
Yeah, I had to paint those wheels.
Sweet ride, bro.
Yeah, had to paint the wheels on this one too, as well, like that part, and I painted his fists.
Nice. Okay.
Okay, so
I'll be doing that to this guy.
Bacon, thoughts on the Studio Series? I am going to assume you've collected every Optimus.
Actually, no. I'm kind of with Patriot Prime. I'm not a huge Studio Series fan, and I'm not a very big movie fan. So the movie Optimus Primes take a huge backseat in my collection. I'm all about vintage and new stuff, but I love that Studio Series SS38.
Yeah.
Very hopeful for the 86 Optimus Prime that we hear rumors about. And then I like some of the movie ones where they did the circular arsenal and the jetpack. Those things were big and unwieldy when they were made in the leader class sizes. So I like how Studio Series kind of scaled things down and made it work better, refined it.
Oh, and I have to correct myself. I do have another Studio Series figure right here that my son Dylan got for Christmas from his papa.
Oh, that's my favorite.
Dylan looked at it, he put it to the side, and I kind of snuck off with it. So.
That is my favorite Studio Series figure to come out so far.
Speaking of, Brian, swallow what you're eating, and then I have a stop motion for Maura asking, does anyone notice that the new Studio Series 86 characters are like remakes of the Titans Return figures? If you look at the transformation and everything, it's very familiar. Brian, have you noticed that?
No, because one, I haven't really gotten any of those, and two, I mean, I could kind of see that with Cup. Oh, well, Blur, yes, obviously, but actually, even Blur has a lot of transformation tricks that are very different compared to the original Titans Returns toy. But
you're going to get similar transformations. Look at the Netflix Soundwave. He transforms a lot like the G1 Soundwave.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. With Studio Series, I find it kind of hit and miss. Because I think with a lot of the engineering and the complex designs, it's harder to get right every single time with those toys. But there are quite a lot that I really do like. The SS Ironhide and obviously the Jeep Bumblebee. I have the Jetwing Optimus Prime for the Dark of the Moon toy line. Of course, I love SS Shockwave because it's Shockwave. So I don't even mind the 86 crew, even though I still feel like the Studio Series should have just been live action movies. I know people argue with me on that, but whatever. People say that Predacon Rising should be part of that, and I'm like, no, that's no.
They really could have just called. They really could have just called it Earthrays Wave 4, and no one would have batted an eye.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I do like how they kind of connect with Kingdom, and if the rumors are true about 2021 or 2022 that they're just going to go back to doing whatever, like what Kingdom is kind of doing right now, then I'm fine with that.
I foresee a reboot of another line. We're going to get Armada figures or something else. I think they've kind of hit their point with G1.
I heard somewhere that Beast Wars is kind of a trial run, and if it sells well, that they will be doing that.
I mean, they got Beast Wars, they got the A6 crew, they got the the original cartoon characters. They got so much going on right now.
And they've been showing that before.
And once they're done with G1, they wanted to move on to other things. You know,
They've
which is
been
why
showing
just
that
the
before.
people who are in charge now want to do Beast Wars and Prime.
I love the Galaxy Upgrade Optimus Prime because that was my first Optimus, and I mean, I love that they actually did it. You know, it's not the best toy, but the fact that they did it.
Agreed. And that is such a fantastic character. But that's an example there where they've kind of dipped their toe in the, let's look at these other series and see if we can make them work, where they did the Cybertron Optimus Prime. And if you remember back in the RTS days, they gave us a Hot Shot from Armada. So they've been dipping their toe into this and kind of testing the waters to see if they can get away with giving us remakes of newer, more modern characters that we've seen.
Wait, Hotshot was a Universe Classics toy. He wasn't around in RTS.
I thought the Hotshot was I didn't get it, so I might be wrong.
Yeah, it was Universe Classics.
When they start branching out into these other lines, is being an old G1er, there's so many figures that they haven't touched yet.
Yeah.
We keep going back to the same ones over and over again. I want to see
there's some that they should redo, like Gears and Swerve.
Gears, Swerve.
I was just going to say that.
Underwing, Blood.
There's a huge, still 2/3 of G1 that's never been touched.
Yeah, they only about 87 to 89.
And this is one that Jason and I talk about this all the time, is we would love to see modern takes on Pretenders.
Yeah.
You know, if you need a proof of concept that Pretenders can be done in today's day and age, take a look at these guys. This is proof of concept right here that Pretenders can be done, because these guys transform nearly identical to the way the G1 Pretenders did.
Yeah, that's true.
And they're small. They're super detailed. They're super articulated, and they're small enough to fit in a shell. It can be done.
Okay, so I'm going to close out this question with a comment from Big Time Nerd 1990. He says, the new Mirage doesn't come close to the classics, and Rodimus Primal, don't you mean double whammy to the wallet? So that was
double whammy to the wallet, for sure.
Okay, so moving on topics, we're going to exclusivity. Now I have 3 questions, so I'm gonna credit everybody. I know Rodimus and Bert, actually pretty much everybody has a problem with exclusivity, but Super Ponage Gigan says, what are your guys' thoughts on exclusives Baku Op says, what does everyone think of exclusives this past year? Tried to get the Padron Medics pack only for pre-order to get canceled. And then Rizal Kane says, same question, but what's his thoughts on actual distribution of the exclusives? So starting with Rodimus, because he had a big voice in this, and in our last chat, I remember this was a conversation, like a big part of conversation, especially involving the DeLorean. So let's start with Rodimus on this topic. So go ahead. What is your opinion on exclusivity?
My problem with exclusivity has been distribution, because the problem is that you have stores like Walmart that one out of every so many stores only stocks will stock everything, and then 4 or 5 nearby Walmarts won't stock anything, and so okay, it's a Walmart exclusive. That means that you're going to have to try and see if you can get it from that one or online, and then online they end up canceling. Walmart cancels so many pre-orders. Then you have Target, and Target, Bert and I had talked about this last time we had done a stream, was that the fact that Target, if it's not on the floor plan, it's not going on the shelf. So you have to check BrickSeek to see if it actually got shipped to the store. And if it is shipped to the store, then you have to go to the store, people who work there, and say, look, your inventory says that you have it. You've got to find it for me. Because they won't put it out on the shelf because it's not on the floor plan. And yet, even though they have space for Transformers, they don't have space for that exclusive. And then you have online exclusives like Amazon. Amazon stocks once. So if you missed out on Ironhide and Ratchet, Ironhide, Ratchet, Prowl, I missed out on them. I want those Earthrise ones. I didn't get the Amazon packs, and I want them, but you can't get them. They never restock. And if they do restock, they restock for like 30 seconds, and then boom. All of a sudden, you see someone tweets out or puts out on Facebook, hey, it's out there. You go on there, and boom, it's gone. Like, it means they're not stocking enough. And it's like Amazon, it's only their online warehouses. So, I mean, I don't care if the online distribution center is that's near, like the one that's nearby is not the one that has it. But let's say if the one in California has it, okay, we'll ship it to the one here in Jersey. I want to be able to buy that toy. And if I can't be able to purchase it, then if I can't purchase the one that's an exclusive, then I won't shop at your location. Because the reason why Hasbro is doing this is because Hasbro knows that if it's an exclusive, you will go to that location to buy that Transformer. But you're not only going to buy that Transformer. While you're there, you're going to buy Dirge and Ramjet because they're only available on Amazon. Well, while you're on there, you might notice that you're also looking for Runamuck. So you're going to order Runamuck. Or you're at Target, and Target has Runabout in stock, right? And it's an exclusive. And you get Runabout, but then while you're there, you also happen to be looking for, let's say, who else was on the shelf? Because Target's been terrible at stocking stuff. But it might be one of the other ones in the wave. So they know while you're there, you're gonna buy that toy because you're looking for that toy. But while you're there, you find another one that you may have been looking for. So Hasbro thinks that you're buying more toys because you're out for that exclusive. Now you're hunting for the exclusive, and you're gonna find it. So what their mindset is that they're selling more toys. What they don't realize is that collectors, they want to buy everything.
Yeah,
and the supply is too little for the demand.
Not enough supply for the demand.
Not enough supply. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, George.
Driving the third party sellers, the scalpers, it's ranking up their bank accounts because more scalpers are able to purchase stuff because of the demand. The demand just is too high for the supply.
Is that, like, I'm not sure personally. The way I was looking at it was, doesn't Target pay for this kind of exclusivity? Because
they do.
Exactly. Yeah, so from Hasbro's standpoint, they're getting more money by making it exclusive there because Target's getting you into the store to buy other things while you're there, type thing.
Right.
And assuming all the exclusives is because of COVID and everyone's bank account is taking a hit. So of course they're going to jump on these exclusives to bolster their bank accounts. So they can show to shareholders, look, we're getting money in type thing. So it's more of a business decision than it is a consumer decision. Like it's not for the fans. It's just for their own.
Yep.
It's just for them.
It's more of a how can they sell more toys? They're thinking they're selling more toys, but the thing is that the demand is so high, because I think that Hasbro did not realize how much Earthrise and Siege were, because they've been such a hit. The toys have been such a hit. That's really what it is that typically the Transformers toys have a certain margin of how much they're going to sell. And the Siege line, they've been selling well, but the Earthrise, they just can't keep up with the demand. And that half of that has to do with COVID. You know, like they're putting out all these exclusive, but if there wasn't COVID, there would be more toys on the shelf. And then the supply would be a little higher, and we'd be able to find the toys a little bit easier. I think we wouldn't notice the exclusives so much if COVID wasn't a factor.
And if the distribution was being handled properly.
That too.
And you've got retailers like Amazon. No, you've got entities like Amazon and Hasbro. And for this next example, I don't know which one of the two is to blame. Maybe they both are partially. I don't know. But obviously with these exclusives like the Ironhide Prowl and the Paradron Medic set and all of that, somebody sold more pre-orders than what they had product for. Maybe that was Amazon, that they grossly sold too many pre-orders, or maybe Amazon was told by Hasbro, you're going to get this much product, so that's how much pre-orders they sold, and then Hasbro didn't deliver. I don't know who's to blame, but they're selling more pre-orders than they have product for, and then the ones that are losing out are the collectors when you get notifications that your order has been canceled. Oh, well, too bad. Go to eBay and pay 3 times as much for it.
And then you got stuff like people in Canada still don't have their cone heads. The pre-order went up July. It says July 18th on my pre-order page, and I've gotten this the 4th email now that says we're sorry for the delay. We don't know when we're getting it in. It hasn't been canceled. We'll let you know, but
yeah. I hope you get it.
I think I actually canceled that one. We haven't even gotten the breakdown 2-pack anywhere. It's not on eBay Games, Toys R Us. Nothing has it for sale.
What breakdown 2-pack?
The Prime
Pulse
anniversary.
Generation Selects.
With the Viacom.
If he doesn't know, then it's not out there.
Exclusives are okay, I think, for more obscure characters that are going to be just focused for collectors. They're going to go for that. Okay, example, the clones. The clones are lesser known characters. You put them in a 2-pack, the two of them together, and you make them exclusives to Target, or you make them exclusives to Amazon. That's okay. Those have a very niche target audience that's going to go for those. But when it comes to like main characters or parts of sets, for example, the Seekers, I've said this in my Thrust review, there is no reason why we all had to go and jump through so many hoops to be able to finish that set for those of us that have been lucky enough to finish that set.
Hey, want another Ratchet? Well, here's an exclusive.
Yeah. And even the I mean, I can understand, even like you said, collectors would want to get the Shattered Glass, Ratchet and Optimus. That's an exclusive that only really, collectors would want to get. But to have like a mainline character like an Ironhide or a Prowl or the Coneheads,
that's a great point.
It's that hits people where it hurts.
Yeah.
And to answer someone's question, as far as like where we're located, I know I'm in the U.S. I know Bert, you're down in you're down south,
Florida. A
lot of you guys are down south. But Lazy Eyebrow and Brian, TF Rampage 101, you guys are in Canada, and so that's to answer your guys' question. So
all of your store exclusives will come to either EB Games, which is basically GameStop, or Toys R Us, because we still have that.
Okay, so Real quick, George, you have a paid comment, so you have to respond to that. You must!
I think if an exclusive sells out within a certain time, they should go ahead and do another run. See, that's kind of what I want. Like, all the exclusives, I would love if, like, after the trilogy is done, they just do, like, a victory lap and say, here's all the exclusives we couldn't get to you. We're doing it again just so that everyone can get
that
it.
with Combined Wars Devastator and a couple of other figures right now.
Like, why not?
Yeah,
Especially if it's a set of figures that half of the people that order them got canceled on.
Exactly.
You know,
Or the ones that sank in that boat or whatever.
Our figures got canceled. Re-release those figures. Obviously, there's a bunch of people out there still waiting for them.
And it's not like those molds are getting thrown out or anything, or those whatever. It's just like, why not reuse them, redo them? Because everyone's crying that COVID has ruined production. Just do a victory lap.
I'm kind of curious if, like,
what is most challenging for the Hasbro side is almost everybody in retail now uses this just-in-time inventory model, where they're literally booking an order at a factory, and then the items are being shipped right out of the factory straight to the retailers. There's no more warehouses in the middle. It's literally the stock rooms that are at the retail store when they get there. So you kind of have, that's why you have the fragmented distribution. That's why you have some stores getting more stuff than others. I think, and then that gets kind of further complicated by Walmart and Target as their own retailers tracking all their stores and saying, well, we know the Eastern New Jersey store sells a lot more Transformers than the Western New Jersey store, and we got to get this stuff out of here because we got other stuff the stock room needs to hold, right? So I think what Hasbro would love is that everything would sell out right away, and that whole process from the factory out to retail comes and goes as fast as possible. But they get duds, right? Look at the alternative universe Optimus Prime. That thing has been a dud for them. You can tell they kind of wanted that to be the big summertime exclusive. But then you have other things that nobody anticipated, like the Paradon set, and that blew out in a few minutes. So I don't think they really know what will sell or not.
I wonder if the problem is also that because there's so many exclusives out there, I wonder if that kind of affects the numbers. I wonder if there were less exclusives, they would have more stock of a specific thing. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I agree. I wish they would just tone it down with the exclusives, make it to more rare or lesser known or collector oriented characters, and make your mainline stuff, just put it out to mass retail. It's gonna.
I mean, I'm glad that we got Hubcap and Exhaust and other characters like that.
I think some of those characters got canceled though. Like some of the characters, like in other words, like we heard about Gears. Gears was apparently supposed to be part of Kingdom, and he got canceled. And then you got people who the last wave of Siege and the last wave of, I think, what was it, Power of the Primes, or was it Titan's Return? That nobody can get that last wave of that toy line. So
I never saw that.
Windblade and Top Spin, I think it was, and who was the other one in that wave?
There's always casualties. I think
it was Misfire.
And like people, or in Siege, everybody really wanted Ratbat and Frenzy. You know.
I never found Slug
Spirit for life, guys. But yeah, everybody wanted Frenzy and Ratbat, and nobody was able to get their hands on that unless you ordered it from somebody who got it from online somewhere, or if you got the Takara release. So, yeah.
Or you use Magic.
Misfire. Misfire is the one that everybody really wanted to get their hands on, and nobody, and even not just Misfire in Titan's Return, but Misfire in the Takara Legends line. Like that's the one that was the better paint job and came with the Target Master, and that's the one that's rare. So
weird.
It's like we end up with casualties that way, and so that's probably why they did the exclusives.
Okay, Brian, if you're back, I have a question for you. There are two people, Necrosector and I'm going to butcher this name, Samantha Chattery. I'm sorry. Anyway, so speaking of exclusives, Necrosector says, what are your thoughts on Punch Counterpunch in the Barricade Pack? And then Samantha, I'm sorry again, what is your thoughts on the crossovers, Gigawatt, Ectotron, and Maverick? That's your entire answer.
That's his answer. You know what? That's a good one right there. Because
I'm glad that they did another release for the Punch Counter Punch, but at the same time, it was also an exclusive that was hard to get. So it's like, oh, here's something that's kind of pointless that like 2 or 3 collectors can get if they missed the first time, but they probably already got the first one. But as far as the second question, yes, I'm loving the crossovers because, I mean, who didn't want a DeLorean Back to the Future car or the Ecto-1, part of my favorite movie, Ghostbusters, to be made into a Transformer?
I'm just kind of upset it was made at a Sideswipe, but that's just my own personal grievance.
How dare you?
It's still a pretty good figure.
it's still a cool looking figure. I just
What,
think
you don't like his big white
on that.
chest?
I made a
I'm
better
always
one out of Lego
fascinated by
based on
how
Prowl
fans have
7
to
years
figure
ago.
out
Yes,
what
we need
toy
kits.
was derived from what mold. I don't understand why that's such a
Knight
big
Rider. We need Knight Rider.
I bought an X-Transbots boost to custom
A-Team.
kit.
Oh,
I
if
haven't
they
done
did
that yet.
Knight Rider, Knight Rider has the potential for 4 toys.
Definitely.
4. And you
Bring
have Kit, you have Car, you have Goliath, right? And then you have the trailer with the truck that Kit can go into.
The Night Industries truck, yes.
Yep.
Out of G2 Optimus.
And that would be incredible. But they would have to do a bigger trailer for the Night Industries truck. And it would have to have the logo and everything. And then you'd have to be able to get your hands on Kit as well. And I wonder if the interior of that trailer would have like, where the car can go in and like the whole play set area out of that. That would be so cool.
Well, that's where Toyhacks would come in.
Yeah,
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
The holding area where
that would be so cool.
what was his name? What was Michael Knight's face? Who'd they take his face from? Who drove Goliath? What was his name again?
That was Garth.
Garth, right? Garth.
Even
Where they
Michael
held-
Knight had a mustache and a soul patch.
Yeah. So that's the one crossover I would buy, and I would buy a General Lee for Dukes of Hazzard.
They're never making
Classic
that, though.
General Lee.
I would
Fine.
love that,
But
they're
the
never
problem with the
making it.
General Lee right now is that you have people who just would not accept that. So, and I'm going to leave it at
Get
that.
rid of the
That's it.
flag.
I'm leaving it there.
Jason's losing his mind over there.
What's your take on this?
Who?
General Lee, Patriot Prime, go now. Ooh.
Oh, I'm all for it. I'd love to see more crossovers. We also forgot Airwolf.
Yes.
Street
Wrong
Hawk.
Yang. There you go, Airwolf.
Starsky and Hutch.
But my favorite, my
Thank you,
dream
man.
crossover, I would love to have Mad Max vehicle. Picture it, Transformers Apocalypse. And they're all Mad Max vehicles. I mean, we got Megatron from last night, or not last night. What the hell's the name of that movie?
Oh, the
Oh, I got the poster right here. Dark of the Moon.
Dark of the Moon with the cloak. Yeah, that could work with the rusty vehicles and stuff.
You'd have the Interceptor. You'd have what was the Humongous' vehicle. That'd be so cool.
I mean, we got Barricade that fits in, right?
Oh, and what was the Batmobile is another one they can probably
Yeah.
do. Well, no, because that would be a matter of the license. Who has the DC license right now?
Warner
Warner
Brothers.
Brothers.
Brothers,
Right, but no, who has the toy license?
Mattel.
I think that's Mattel.
Yeah,
Jake is doing them right
yeah.
now.
Oh.
As
not
much
giving
as
that
I'm not too into it, I admire what they did with the X-Men crossover. The fact that's a remold of
so
the
cool.
Studio Series Jetfire.
Yeah.
How do they do that?
Not just that, but they also have the Wolverine claws and the Psylocke blade. Like that was just so
I want
cool.
more of
When
that.
I first
That's what I want out of these crossovers. Just these just out there stuff.
They
when I
need
first
to
heard about
remold
that X-Men
Top Gun
crossover,
into the older G2 jets. Where they
I was not interested in that X-Men crossover until I saw pictures of it, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to get it. It's ridiculously good.
Another cool
They did the
crossover.
right
Who
thing. They didn't
remembers,
give us
who
another
remembers
Iron
the
Man
Highwayman?
Transformer.
Oh, what was that?
Who remembers the Highwayman? Remember that show? The big futuristic truck, and the front of the truck would turn into a helicopter. Played
Yep.
for one season.
Yep.
Sam Jones, Flash Gordon was the star.
Yep.
I am so old.
You want to do I mean, if you're going to get into obscureness like that, then you got BJ and the Bear. You got Automan. Automan he was a Lamborghini. Mask, yes.
Yep.
You know, since
Mask
we got G.I. Joe,
because Hasbro I think owns it, right? So
yeah, they actually gave us an Easter egg for Mask in the Prime series.
Yeah, they did.
Because I can't remember the name of the character, but he was voiced by Ernie Hudson. He was the commander of the Mobile Armor Strike Command.
Oh, Agent Fowler.
Yeah, they did mention it by name in the show.
Yep.
Uh-oh. Someone has an idea.
We need the Mach 5.
I was gonna say,
yeah.
And
I'd
remove
love
it
to
from
see
our
the
seat.
Blade Runner vehicle be done too. They did the DeLorean. They're not far off.
Wacky Racers, there you go.
I want a Penelope pit
I
stop.
have a theory about the Wacky Racers that maybe it's not a theory that the Penelope pit stop is RC.
Yeah.
Right.
Mort used to have that mold out.
No, I wouldn't mind a stealing though, because then
We're gonna go to the races even.
I will say this much. Even though everybody has their qualms about G1 RC, I want to see them redo her again and make her better. Either repaint this mold or give us a brand new RC boy.
I want a new mold that actually distributes some of the alt mode kibble, even if it just hides it somewhere. I hate that thing. I hate that toy.
The 18 van, definitely.
proper paint. That's all.
What about the masterpiece, the MP51?
Too big for Chug.
Okay,
I did see that posting on the TFormers about the
with the fix.
Yeah.
It's baffling why, after the uproar, they couldn't just make a tiny little change like that.
Because they're dumb.
Japanese honor, I think.
Brian out here just spouting
We
facts.
must respect the design.
The 18 van is definitely one I would love to see.
Oh, how did I forget that one?
I said 18
Or Herbie. Yeah, Herbie they can already do, technically.
It's just Bumblebee in white.
There's
It's
been some
really
third-party
Bumblebee.
ones.
Who would ever customize a Bumblebee in white and make it Herbie?
I would.
Okay.
Instead, make it Bug Bite.
Okay, so we are 90 minutes in. So just to check with everybody who's in the panel here, anybody need to pee?
Sorry, did it.
I drank about 2 liters of water. I could probably go, but I mean, I'm good for now.
Oh, the Mega Maid. Yes.
Oh,
Patriot. Oh, Baseballs. Yes. Okay.
As big as mine.
So just a head check then. Are we all good to continue on? Does anybody need to go?
I don't care.
Okay, great. Cool.
If I need
Okay.
to go, I will.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the next topic. The Netflix anime. A number of us, I don't know how many of them are in. I know Rodimus did. I know I did. I know
It's been
Gotbot
on
did.
for like 40 minutes.
Yeah,
I actually
a
just
small
watched
group
that
of us
today.
did release videos on our thoughts on the series. So. Did you watch it?
Start teasing me. Sorry, yes, I watched it.
Okay, what was your thoughts on that? On Earthrise specifically, but Siege and Earthrise together.
I'm just so like I watch it because I have to because of these conversations. That's kind of it.
Oh, it was work. I see.
It's work, and I watched it. Just I don't know. I slogged through it, and see, what I don't like about it is it feels like they do these references with the fans in mind that you're supposed to know these things. I didn't watch Beast Wars. I know the Golden Disc has significance, but when Galvatron handed it over, me personally, I'm like, I have no idea what this is. There's no context to it, and it feels like the show doesn't stand on its own, and it relies so much on you knowing pre-established lore for other things. And I just
the toys are heavily based on those G1 toys and characters. So I guess
I
there
get that. I don't like it because it feels like the story doesn't stand on its own merit, and I just don't think that's good writing.
Okay, so Bacon. Oh, well, Bacon. What was your thoughts on the series?
I love it. I think it's one of the best ones. If you've gone through all of the shows that Transformers have had, they're generally almost awful. I mean, have you tried to watch Armada? Have you tried to watch Cybertron on their own merits? It's painful. I mean, if
John is
if
painful.
we go into Beast Wars, the Golden Disc, not to spoil it for anyone, is actually kind of a minor thing. So I wouldn't worry about all of these little things you don't know. They generally are just little ideas being thrown around and things like that. And I find the show completely enjoyable. It always goes by faster than I want it to. I think if you wanted it to be as epic and perfect as the fans would wanted it to be, it would have to be like 20 shows and really slow and a lot of development and a lot of stuff really packed in that would probably be a lot more tedious. So I'm a good solid 4 stars so far on the 2 shows, but I'll be honest, the end of Earthrise was like, okay, wait a minute here. It feels like it's falling apart. So they're either going to pull off a miracle or they're going to kind of crash land. No pun intended.
Okay, Rodimus, tell him why he's wrong.
You want me to? I'll tell you what. Let me hold off my thoughts and let everybody else say their piece about the show as a whole.
Okay.
Because I just want to hear everybody else's thoughts.
Okay, Bert.
So let me jump in on that. So I thought Siege was beautiful. It was a very strong series, and it kind of touches on what Lazy was talking about, where you needed to know G1 for Earthrise. With Siege, not so much, because Siege told a new story. It told a compelling story. If you're coming into Siege and you don't know anything about Transformers, it's starting you from point 1 and telling you this story and developing this story so you can jump right in. If you're coming in like us with knowledge of G1, then it's telling us a story that we've always wanted to hear since the 84 cartoon came in, which is what happened before Earth, what happened on Cybertron, what led to the Exodus, all of that stuff. So it's telling a compelling new story for new and old audiences. And it was so good and so strong, I felt, that it really raised the expectations for Earthrise. And then Earthrise came along, and it did nothing. For starters, spoilers, they never got to Earth until the last frame of the last episode. So
they still weren't on Earth at that point either.
It was more like Earth Trek, because they were just kind of aimlessly wandering around space. Nothing was happening.
Well, they're still in space.
The story did not move along, and then there was things like certain character appearances that just felt shoehorned. Remember when we had Skylinks on the shelf? Throw him in there needlessly and uselessly for about 20 minutes so that we can justify the toy. That's kind of the way it felt.
Okay, Patriot.
All right. Well, first off, I look at the new all the Transformers shows, all the Transformers movies, the same way I appreciate DC Comics animated movies. They're all their own different universe. So I'm never real upset if something doesn't blend in with something else. So that being said, going into Earthrise, I liked it, but it went all over the place. There was a couple episodes that were really solid, and I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to see what happens next. And then I'm spending the whole next episode going, what? And I really liked when they did it, the horror aspects with it. I mean, you got this Quintesson cutting its own faces off to get its senses intact. You've got Megatron killing his own troopers, sucking their, well, not as much, well, yeah, Megatron Shockwave, you know, he's sucking the life force out of his troopers. And I really like what they did with Megatron. They just really made him so much more evil. I think they fleshed him out. Optimus Prime, not so much. He went full from I am Optimus Prime to I'm Batman. No, you know. So voice acting.
Batman go through puberty.
Huge Scorponok fan
He's
too.
just a wuss.
That comes
Optimus fell into the same trope that they fell in with the Prime series. So with Siege, it just kind of felt like the voice actor gave up, because in Siege, the first few minutes of Siege, I thought that was Peter Cullen, and then he said certain things that sounded differently, and then I had to look it up on, it's somebody else. He's doing a really good job of sounding like Optimus Prime. Moving to Earthrise, he's not even trying to sound like Peter Cullen anymore. And then he fell into that trope that Prime series did, where everything Optimus Prime said is the most important, drawn out, slow thing he ever said.
Why are you dogging on my favorite show?
Brian, your turn.
Oh, hell, I never got to finish. Bert interrupted.
Oh, Patriot. Oh, that's right. Bert did cut you off.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Patriot. Finish, and then Brian.
Well, I was going to touch
So
on
my thoughts.
Jesus Christ, let me talk.
Go ahead, Jay.
Can I finish? Can I finish?
I guess.
Fine.
But I was
You're
going to touch
being
on the
nice.
Scorponok thing too. I've always liked Scorponok as a character, not as much from the cartoons. I really enjoyed him in Marvel Comics. I love how they did him in Marvel Comics. So I was really excited to see him in the show. And when he came out, he was just kind of stupid, really a bestial character. But then as the episode went on, you found out he's the last of the Scorponoks. Okay, I dig it. He's some kind of race then, though his race happened to have a Decepticon symbol on his back. I don't know if anybody else knows that. And,
Way accurate.
but then, okay, he's the last of the Scorponoks. The Quintessons killed his race. I'll blow the ship up. We aren't going to worry about that story anymore.
Yeah.
I'm done, Brian. You're up.
Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Why wasn't Scorponok pregnant?
Oh,
Oh, that's IDW crap.
okay. I was about to say, am I missing something?
Yeah.
I only know that from a Googled image I pulled up one time, and I was like,
Yeah. Exactly. How I feel about the show is that, I mean, with Siege, what you expect from Siege is pretty much here. And I think the main reason why is because they worked back to back with this and Earthrise and I'm sure Kingdom, that any of the criticisms that people had wouldn't really affect too much of the show. But the thing about this is it felt like we were sticking around too long in certain places, and then it would just cut to a different place, or these people would cut to a different place. Like, for example, Megatron, throughout most of the beginning, is trying to get the ship so that he could go off and find the Allspark. And then we cut back to the Decepticons, and they're already catching up with the Autobots.
Yep.
And I guess that whole part of their
That was
journey.
jarring.
I'm
And-
sure Rodimus is going to talk about the passage of time when he gets to it.
But I mean, cool that there's Easter eggs. There's some things that people are upset because they changed with some of the characters. I don't mind them doing that, because if we just recycled every single thing as like every pinpoint of it, it would just get boring over time. Like the Quintessons taking off their faces. I thought that was an interesting touch. It is definitely dark, but dark doesn't really. This is the thing when The Dark Knight came out and released. Everyone wanted every movie to be dark. And I don't think that makes a great show or movie. It's how it's done. It's how it's dealt with. And, just making something simply dark doesn't make it good. Is it the worst thing out there? I don't think so. I don't like the voice of Optimus Prime. I'm not trying to harsh on the voice actor, but I'm sorry, it's not working. What's also funny is that for a couple of characters, specifically Galvatron and Skylinks, I swear to God I had to look up because I could hear the voice of Beast Wars characters. Galvatron, you watch back, sounds like Rhinox when he's in his Decepticon form. And then Skylinks kind of sounds like Tigertron at some points. But again, there are some good things. I just felt like, we're sticking at this place for far too long. The pacing's just meh.
Yeah, it was weird.
But one other thing that I do like, I like the fact that the design of the Transformers are based on the toys for the most part, because I like the idea of the toys come to life. That's why I like Cybertron a lot.
See, for me, that's really distracting.
But like, okay, it's called Earthrise. Why are most of the characters coming into this selects? Not really from Earthrise. And then you also still have RC and Bumblebee that are still their original forms. They don't even transform. Optimus is like, roll out, and you see RC and Bumblebee on the back of Optimus Prime.
Yeah. And that's one thing I brought up. So we have the toy line Earthrise, where they're giving us the characters that now have the 80s Earth modes, and then you get the series Earthrise, and they never make it to Earth to begin with. They're all still in Cybertronian modes, and then it ends into what appears to leading the kingdom.
Which
So
is
now they're
prehistoric
going
Earth.
into
That's what I got excited for. As much as I don't like the pacing of the show, when they showed Dinobot, I was like, yes!
yeah, I agree with that. but
Spoilers!
if you think about the timeline. So
We talked about the Quinson heads, and
another
everyone knows.
question is, when on Earth's timeline is it that we're arriving on Earth? Because if this is prehistoric Earth and we're moving in the kingdom, what was the point of all the 80s Earth modes that we got for Earthrise?
Money.
So we
Well,
lied
no.
To be fair, I'm glad they did it. Let's
be
turn it
fair.
around. What if we didn't have them at all?
Exactly.
That's
Okay.
I mean, fair.
I'm
But
not-
this is more of a
I'm not
critique
complaining
against
that
the show.
this is horrible that we got this. That's not at all what I'm trying to say. But what I'm saying is, in terms of the storyline, it just doesn't make sense. If you're following the storyline along with the toy line, they don't mesh up together. It's just
No.
not making sense.
Definitely doesn't make sense. But I think at the end of the day, the show is a commercial for the toys. And as long as the toys are great, I can forgive the show in the end.
Stop
Things
spreading
just certainly
positivity,
just
bacon.
Happen in the show.
This is a negative only stream.
Yeah, that's what I find about the show. Things happen.
It's a negative only stream. We can have some positivity. I'm gonna like. Here's the
I'm
thing.
going to ruin the show.
Siege was Hasbro's idea of the beginning of their G1 blowout, and the idea was that they were going back to the Cybertronian modes. Where Hasbro wanted Siege to end was the More Than Meets the Eye Part 1, the very first G1 cartoon episode. They left Cybertron and they're going to Earth, or they landed on Earth. But they knew that, like, basically they were going to go with Earthrise. Their idea behind Earthrise, at least from Hasbro's perspective, was the G1 alt modes, like the Earth modes and everything else like that, because it's Earthrise. But what is an Earthrise? Do anyone know what an Earthrise actually is?
Well, it's
You're on the moon
what
and
you
you
see
see the
when you're on
Earthrise.
the moon.
If you're on the moon, well, if you're traveling around the moon, because the moon doesn't necessarily rotate,
Yeah.
right? So you would actually have to be traveling
Fair.
yourself. Because when it rotates with the Earth, right? So when if you're going around the dark side of the moon, and all of a sudden you come up and you see the Earth on the other side, the Earth is rising. So what the actual word itself for Earthrise means is that we're coming to Earth.
Yeah,
So the idea behind it is, in the show is that is on the approach to Earth. The problem is that you have a toy line that has so many new characters that get brushed to the side. I could forgive them not having Earth modes if they showed up in the show, even just if in robot mode. Run Amok was one that he was actually voted for to be in the show. Whereas like the reason why we got Mirage versus Impactor in Siege was because the toy line demanded it, that because they were doing a 2-pack, and that was part of the fact that they had to battle each other.
Wasn't that voted on too?
Otherwise, we would have gotten, I think, what was it, Needle Nose versus Wheeljack?
Yeah, and Trax versus who was it?
Right. So they pushed Trax to Kingdom.
Sinister.
So the thing is that like the box art is technically correct, is that it's them coming and crashing to Earth. So the end of Earthrise is them coming to Earth. The problem with the show is that it feels like Siege Part 2. It doesn't feel like it's the middle chapter, and it doesn't feel like you can just watch it on its own without having watched what happened in Siege. If you start a cartoon sometimes and you start season 2 and it feels like you can go back and watch season 1, but you don't necessarily have to have watched season 1 to not get into the show. This one doesn't feel like that. It basically feels like you're watching episode 7 instead of episode 1 of Earthrise.
You know what my favorite scene in Earthrise is when Trailbreaker.
There's a lot of characters, and the other thing was, here's the other problem, and where I'm willing to forgive is their limitations. I mean,
oh, that's appropriate.
How many people understand the limitations of the fact that they're using a computer animation, right? Oh my god!
No, you're exactly right. Each one of those character models is very expensive to develop.
Yeah.
Are you filling up your cup?
They use direct CAD models.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about. It looks exactly like that. Like the toy designers just sent everything off and they converted it into a working.
Believe it or not, that's what they wanted. That's what when the showrunners were making it and they sent it to Polygon, they wanted it to look very much like the toys with some variations, and they did that on purpose because they wanted. Because we as I guess as G1 fans have said, like, how come our toys don't look like the cartoon? Ironhide and Ratchet have heads in the cartoon, but then you buy the toy and they don't have heads. They don't want
my most disappointing figures from 1984.
Right.
I get that, but I feel like they did it to a fault because when they have like 5mm ports on their shoulders, I look at that and go, "Come on."
Yeah, that was my complaint.
I was Ryan on that one though, because I like that about Cybertron is that you looked at the figure or the character on the TV, it looked exactly like the toy that you had in your hand.
Like, I'm okay with it looking almost exact, but like, do the variation. Don't like here. There's the peg holes for where the guns go, the 5mm ports. That kind of stuff can get blocked up. You don't necessarily have to have that in the animation model. But the other issue is that they have to have 3 models for one transformer that actually transforms. So you have the robot, you have the car, and then you have the transforming. Anyone notice that Megatron, when he transforms in Earthrise, that first episode, that he's like got that weird chest thing, and then all of a sudden it flashes to the next scene and then flashes back and his chest is fine. Like, it's got that weird square around his Decepticon symbol because the transformation animation model is different than the robot animation model. And they utilize that quite a bit. The problem is that they saved all the budget for Kingdom. And knowing that they saved the budget for Kingdom, I'm expecting to see more Beast Wars characters, and they had better transform, because that is a major part of Beast Wars, is that if it's a season 1 of Beast Wars, they can't be on the planet and not transform.
They're almost not if they don't do that.
And I'm sure that the show is probably not even going to do it that way. But that is kind of one of the things. I understand, and I'm forgiving of the limitations. My problem is the story. When you hear that there's talk about whether or not it is a brand new continuity or it is the prequel to G1, you're like, well, where does it take place? Is it its own continuity? Then fine. But my issue is that you hear them say, well, this is the Optimus before he became Optimus Prime. Well, what are you talking about? We're at the end of the war and they're leaving Cybertron for Earth. And this Optimus Prime is a pansy.
Don't be gentle. For whatever reason, that's been kind of the flag they've been flying. That was kind of how they kicked off Cyberverse too, right? Remember, we started where you've got Prime as a young guy, and they're all looking up to Megatron in the first episodes. And
yeah, animated was the same way.
Well, believe it or not, the writers of Siege, like the who was it, Gavin Hignite, he actually wrote Siege, but he was also on Cyberverse. And when Hasbro wanted Cyberverse and the War for Cybertron trilogy to line up, even though they're separate continuities, if that makes any sense, that's the reason why we have the Allspark as the D20. That's the reason why Alpha Trion is dead before the start of the show. That's the reason why
they tried to align everything. Remember, we had the Transformers rebooted IDW comic series. Tried to tie all that together too.
They wanted it all to match, but it doesn't. Like, in fact, FJ DeSanto actually approached IDW and said, "Hey, where our continuities are supposed to line up, Hasbro wants them to line up. Do you want our notes?" And IDW said, "Nope, we don't care. We don't even care about what Hasbro wants." Like, that's what IDW said,
and it showed.
Yeah, I'm not even kidding. That the reason why the storyline has been the way that it is. Apparently, I stopped reading the new IDW reboot, I think, after like 2 or 3 issues. It was so boring. And everyone even says now, like 25 issues in, that the war between the Autobots and Decepticons hasn't even started. It's boring.
Well, that's kind of what I was saying about War for Cybertron, right? As a show, you can be upset that it's only 6 episodes per chapter, but imagine if it was 16 or 20. It gets old.
Well, no, here's the thing. They wanted to tell a lot of story. They wanted to tell a lot of story that they only had 6 episodes for. Mm-hmm. And I think that what you notice when Earthrise starts is that it's basically Siege Part 2. The first episode of Earthrise is basically the continuation of Siege. The actual leaving Cybertron and the actual getting to the whole space odyssey that they were doing doesn't start until basically like episode 2 or the end of episode 1. And then they're still going back and forth what's happening on Cybertron. All of that stuff should have been taken care of in Siege.
Yep.
And then we could have moved on to Earthrise. But instead, it happens in tandem, and too much stuff that happens in Earthrise feels like it doesn't go as far as it needs to. I wanted to see more Galvatron. That Galvatron was awesome. The fight with Scorponok was awesome. The Optimus Prime, I cannot stand this Optimus Prime.
I wouldn't even mind it.
There's no way about it. I already went on a 15-minute, 20-minute rant, I think.
I wish I could argue with you. Prime is my main guy.
Another plate of food, Brian?
Maybe.
Ruins the show. I said it in my review.
When he says, "Tell me that you forgive me,"
you forgive me.
I wanted to literally, and so they made him the villain. He literally says, I became a villain for your Decepticons. I was like, the leader of the good guys tells the leader of the bad guys that he's the bad guy?
Well, and then it just becomes patronizing how Megatron on a whim could be like, mercy, please. I mean, come on. Well,
that's Megatron. That is Megatron's character.
Oh, for sure. But it got overplayed.
I expected those kind of things. And that, to me, he finally became Megatron being Megatron. The thing is that it took too long for him to get there. I can understand. This Megatron was more fleshed out, and I liked the way that they fleshed this Megatron out. I just think that he needed to be a little bit more evil. I also think the dialogue in the show needed a Ron Friedman. Ron Friedman, if you guys are not familiar, he rewrote parts of the G1 scripts. The first 65 episodes of the original cartoon were Ron Friedman would go in and edit the verbiage. And since he was close friends with Flint Dille did the same thing for season 3, which is why you get such great lines in the show, even in G1, that you may look at today and kind of look at that they're kind of corny, but they kind of uplift. They were funny in the face of something serious. As the Earthlings say, fat chance, fathead. You're not going to get that in Earthrise. Why? Because there was no fun in the show. There was a lot of cool stuff. The fight with Scorponok was awesome. Galvatron coming in and beating the crap out of Megatron and pushing him to use his hate, which if you notice was a hate plague, right? That kind of stuff. Skyling's kind of overcoming his. Well, I was upset what happened to Skyling. At the end, I wanted Skyling's. But there was funny lines in G1 that should have been in this show, and there was the dialogue needed an overhaul.
I think my favorite line of the show is "Stay alert. I'm always alert."
That was great. that was on Cybertron.
Yeah.
And I bet that was written after they had already written where they were going for Earthrise. Like they already had Earthrise set up, and they probably had they decided to pull some storyline out for Alita on Cybertron. And I'm not opposed to seeing a storyline with an Alita on Cybertron, but I had an issue with there wasn't enough storyline in for all the characters that are happening in the Space Odyssey. Like it felt like the Space Odyssey should have been longer. They should have gone to other planets.
We should have moved away from Cybertron and got to the actual Trek.
They should have put more of the Alita story in maybe a comic.
Well, they missed that opportunity.
They should have gone 10 episodes per season.
The station
they
stuck
went 10 episodes per
dimensions
season.
Or whatever.
What's that?
They said they missed a big opportunity with the space station that was stuck in between two dimensions.
Yep.
They had such a Event Horizon vibe with that scene right there. And they could have done so much with that, but, let's just blow it up.
Well, it's funny because I thought that was how they were going to get on Earth. When they went to the other side, I was sure
Me too.
at some point they were going to say, oh, we must be on early Earth or something.
Yep.
And then just like with Scorponok, it's like, oh, well, that's all blown to shit. Bye.
It may have been because I remember now when Optimus and Bumblebee went through on the other side and they looked down. That looked like the structures from Beast Wars. The what was the alien called?
I thought so too.
It looked like their structures.
You know what I think it was meant to be though, because I thought the same thing. I'm like, oh look, it's the structures from Beast Wars, but then Scorponok. I guess that was Scorponok's planet. So my thought was that maybe this was Nebulon.
Yeah.
They just never told us.
Yeah, I would have been cool with it being Nebulon. And here's my theory: if Scorponok himself,
Nebulos.
What's that?
Nebulos. Nebulons were the characters. Nebulos was the planet, I believe.
Nerd.
Rebirth.
You have to get it right. You don't want
Rebirth said both.
Let me get my daggone comics.
I'm saying like the Rebirth episodes said both, but Scorponok, in my opinion,
you're not coming to the after party.
In the
we are in the after party now.
Yeah, this train derailed a long time ago.
Yeah, when Scorponok actually got said like he's the last of the Scorponok or whatever, and they said that his weakness is his head. My personal opinion, what'll end up happening to him if they were ever to bring him back, would be he becomes a headmaster, and since Zarak is smart, is how Scorponok is smart. Whereas Scorponok himself is the bestial Decepticon, and Zarak is smart and was what makes him smart. It's very much the same way that High Q became Optimus Prime when Optimus Prime died at the what was that issue? What was the issue 76? Patriot going with some G1 Marvel comic. What's that?
I said, after Optimus Prime shoved the Matrix in Unicron, that's when High Q started absorbing, because he actually was absorbing Prime's essence beforehand.
Yep.
Because remember before Prime shot off the Unicron, he said, you have to go, my friend. I forget exact wording, but he made sure that High Q was safe because he knew what was happening.
Oh, there's a good comment that do I think that G1 Scorponok will meet Beast Wars Scorponok? Not in this continuity. That's a missed opportunity.
I don't even think they're going to
very big missed opportunity.
I'm not even sure if they'll put in that Scorponok just for the sake of like, oh, we're having two Scorponoks in the same show.
Unless they turn him into the Beast Wars Scorponok.
We'll see what's funny. I had
somebody. Maybe he's another one of those Scorponoks.
You're saying like evolution?
Scorponoks, so that's also possible.
Like, because Beast Wars takes place after G1, you would assume that Scorponok evolved into the Scorponok we see in Beast Wars.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the point of him saying, I am the last Scorponok, because he's not the last Scorponok.
He identified himself as the last of the Scorponoks as a race, not particularly a name. So if he's wrong and he's not the last, that definitely would open the door for us to have a Scorponok in Beast Wars that's not the same character, that's also of the same race, and that is evolved.
We could also see a Black Barrett at some point.
The Predacon character himself was just who he was. Oh, yeah, and everyone thought that Spinister was dead. He ended up being alive in the end.
Oh, yeah, what did they do with Skytread? Like,
Oh,
Shot him.
I helped you.
I helped you.
No. Gets
Yeah,
shot.
he's dead. Shot him in the head.
You have to punch me. Which I'm making fun of the voices here because it's the same thing. It's that Autobots. I said return to the Ark. Or he goes full Batman voice when he says, no, he does. He's in bad Peter Cullen impression when he's doing the, well, Alpha Trion said that any Autobot has the capacity for good, and I was like, you're literally saying the Dark Knight, like quoting the Dark Knight. At the same time, when this Optimus is angry, he sounds
you
like
either die a hero or you see yourself become the villain.
yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah.
Honestly, I would have much rather
It's what we
you
do.
can't get Peter Cullen because of money issues. Fine, just do an original voice. Just do a new take. Obviously,
I thought it was weird when Optimus Prime kept saying, Alfred! Alfred!
No, he was yelling, Martha! Wait, what?
Why'd you say that name?
Okay. So since we're trailing off here, Stop Motion Former asks, what Transformers series would you like to see return or be rebooted with new stories and voice actors?
Animated.
Animated season 4 would be nice.
Animated.
You can't redo animated. It's animated.
No, finish it because they canceled it, so they gave us a half-assed last season, and they didn't finish that story
I
properly.
think you could finish it, but I don't
Give
want
us a proper ending to that series.
It was just so unique in
I
how
don't want them to reboot anything. I just want them to do a good show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, too bad.
I think what's hard to accept about to swap out War for Cybertron with G1 is what everyone's been saying is that War for Cybertron is this super serialized thing where it's end to end. You really can't drop off in the middle. But G1, you could turn on any episode at any time, and it was always fun. There was a story self-contained in that one episode, and even though there was some lineage, before and after the shows, it was always enjoyable on its own. I think they did that well with Beast Wars too.
Animated was like that as well.
Multi-part storylines, that was a treat, and those were always epic.
Yep, I think this is more of a byproduct of an era because that's all the 80s was just self-contained episodes of anything you would watch. And nowadays, people want a story over a multi-arc thing, and
They want
you look at anything. There was Gravity Falls. There was
Here's my idea, and this would be an amazing idea. I kind of got the idea from somebody that posted it on TFW, but it actually, I've been thinking about it a little bit further. Imagine an anthology series. Now, hear me out. An anthology that does have a main purpose that has an overarching story, but self-contained episodes that explore storylines that take place within that continuity let's say within the Sunbow cartoon. So
Transformers Heavy Metal.
we can do an episode that tells the origin of the Protectobots that we never got in G1. We can tell an episode about the Decepticons attacking something that is preventing the Autobots from finishing completion of Autobot City. We can tell an episode or a multi-part episode that tells a story about how the Decepticons eventually completely took over Cybertron. So the stuff that takes place in between season 2 and the movie. We can have an episode that takes place when Elita 1 first first got built by Alpha Trion, and have her adventures there. Have an episode of just that. Have an episode that takes place, in the middle of season 3, explaining how these particular characters are happening, but then on the same time, I would love to see stories that take place after episode, season, the rebirth. They just stayed on Cybertron and didn't die.
How about a properly translated Scramble City?
You know what? Do a Scramble City itself is only 10 minutes.
Right. So give us a proper Scramble City so that we know what happens from season 2 and leading into the movie.
Well, that could be in part of it, an anthology series that kind of goes, has but the overarching story, maybe that there is a Transformer who is tuning into what's happening.
And I think
that turns into an eventual story. Cyberverse was kind of like that in and of itself.
Animated did that beautifully, though.
What's
Yes,
that?
it did.
Animated did that beautifully, where
Yes.
they did have self-contained episodes, but it all led up to the season finale,
Yep.
and so you did have a storyline,
Agreed.
but it wasn't the main focus. It was just
Animated did that very well.
It's funny you mention all this because I'm trying to work out a series of short films that are kind of a part of like this whole series, but they're not related. They don't even have to be in the same universe. I think it was called Cybertron Legends, and it's just stories about whatever. But the problem is I'm trying to get other people to be wrapped up into it, so not every story is the same thing. It's like just short movies of whatever story related to Transformer. So I'm trying to kickstart that.
Well,
We've got
what's kind of challenging for us is and what I see a lot in War for Cybertron is they kind of threw Prime out as the baby with the bathwater, and they said, you know what? We've never really been able to sell the Megatron toys. They tried so hard through the Bayverse to make the Megatron toys popular and things. Nobody wanted them. But they've been very successful in the War for Cybertron for making Megatron not just a good character in the show, but a toy that everyone wants to buy and collect. What have we had, like 8, 9 Megatrons?
It's exactly what they did with Beast Wars. They made him a good, compelling character with good toys. Everybody wants Beast Wars Megatron.
Yeah. Normally, Prime is the one that gets 3 or 4 times more.
Lazy Eyebrow.
Everyone said hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi
She's doing a good
there.
job moderating, catching all the swears in the chat.
me again.
Uh-oh, he's in trouble.
Oh no.
No, it was just a 6-hour print that she broke and came to tell me.
Anyways, they're selling a lot of Megatrons in War for Cybertron.
You know what surprised me was my Walmart had a butt ton of the $30 or $40 Megatron from the movie, just bench warming or shelf warming, all gone. I went to the store last week, all gone. They're like Christmas, they sold out.
Which one was this?
It was the I think it was the Netflix Megatron with the 2 weaponizers.
Oh yeah, that's a beautiful figure.
Oh yeah, that
Those
one with
have been
the
collecting dust on shelves
long gone.
and then they just disappeared overnight. Maybe
Yeah,
they got
I
sent
put
to
it
Rock.
right here on my shelf. If I
I
had
ranked
one,
him up so much in my top 10 list.
So it almost seems like each line is like marketing a character, right? Cyberverse is obviously pushing Bumblebee really hard, and
Well, here, Bacon, let's lead into this then. Toy pricing and the new increases for the deluxes. Now, because I remember during the Power of the Prime Wars trilogy, the deluxes were $15, $16.99, and then for War for Cybertron, for the first 2 series, they went up to $19.99. Now they're $22.99, and I think
why
that's the
don't
only
you come to
thing that got
Canada?
price raised. So what?
why don't you come to Canada and see our prices?
I don't want to. They're more
well,
expensive.
I don't know if everyone remembers they blamed that on the oil shortage, that they were going to have to pump the prices up, and I think it was a 30% kick up, and
Sure.
of course they're never
Yeah,
going
but that math doesn't add up when they literally just added $10 to each class.
Inflation.
You know,
Inflation is a problem.
Because I
And
remember when I got
I like him. I can't believe I paid what I did for him.
yeah, the leader class went from 40 to 50. That's a $10 bump, and then the Voyagers went from 20 to 30, a $10 bump, and then the Deluxes went from 10 to 20. That's a $10 bump. That's not 30%.
Well, no, initially when they went from $10.99 to whatever it was, 15 something, I remember them being at Walmart for $15.88.
$17.99, I think.
Everyone freaked out. I was like, "What?" And they said it was because of the oil thing. I don't know if you all remember that. The airline
that was the initial.
pouring oil ahead of time.
Yeah. But I haven't seen them going for 22. I just picked these up today, and they were still $19.99.
Well,
I think
I-
that's wrong, right?
Like, oh, we're gonna bump up the price, and I was like, great. Ooh,
The
they're all
Voyagers
great.
are definitely smaller.
I assumed Walmart just had like a Boxing Week sale or something, but I got the Kingdom Voyagers for deluxe prices.
Ooh.
So, no. why, but I took it.
So
I've
back-
been making out like a bandit at Ross lately.
Yes, you have.
I skipped the entire Siege line with the exception of Optimus Prime, and I've now picked up most of the Siege line all at Ross at discount.
Wow.
I've been using the Target Red card to get discounts for pretty much everything I get there, so saving some money. I wanted to say, I remember back when I got the throttle bots back in, I think, 87. They were like $2 a piece. And then I think the bigger toys, the what would probably be considered deluxe now, were like $4. And then I remember my mom bought me a G2 Optimus Prime with trailer, and I think it was like 20 or 30. So I just
It was $29.99.
there we go. So I sometimes I miss those prices. So we got a question. Big Time Nerd 1990 says, "What are your thoughts about masterpieces, particularly the movie ones?" So we'll start with George. I think masterpieces are great quality for the price, especially when, and not all of them. Now, some of them are super expensive, but they don't transform, right? I don't own any masterpieces. I don't know.
Masterpiece transform.
Some do.
They all do.
Oh, the masterpieces transform. See, I didn't know that. I just thought they were just good statues. But George,
3A. Anyways, I haven't bought a masterpiece for myself since 2017. But the ones that I've seen coming out, I just haven't been impressed with because they keep going up and up in price, and they keep going this whole faux forming route that I just can't get behind. Like MP44 was just, I have an image on my computer where it's just it's like the shoulder and the toes are the only parts that show up both in vehicle and in robot mode, and I just can't get behind that. You could argue that the windows can open, turn inside out, and go back in, but again, that's it. Everything else hides away, and it's the same thing for Starscream. For the movie masterpieces, they're good. I have the Ironhide because that was gifted to me, but I haven't purchased any of them, and they just gotten too expensive for me to even bother trying to keep up with.
And isn't he fun to transform? But the movie masterpiece Ironhide, isn't he just so much fun to transform?
Oh yes, just I love panels. So many panels.
Bacon.
I have him because I found him at Ross for $17.
That's why it got sent to me, because it's like I bought it for 17 and I don't want it, so I'm just going to ship it to you.
Yeah.
Here, have fun.
I saw Bumblebee movie masterpiece Bumblebee at Target today, and I kind of want that one because I just like Volkswagen.
I wouldn't mind getting the 06 Camaro one. That thing looks cool.
Well, the MP1, and for about 6-8 figures, they really had a masterpiece mentality where you got a heavy die cast, serious, super engineered piece of product. Now they seem to have kind of done a U-turn where the quality control is actually almost worse on the masterpieces. I mean, people were really upset about how bad the Beast with Megatron was, and the Dinobot had a lot of problems. And then there's the price thrown on top, and they have also come down. They've gotten smaller, so you've gotten these kind of smaller, intricate puzzles for more money every year. What was that?
I buy the
$350? I didn't get it.
I thought I was grabbing MP1. That was MP10. MP01 is up there in the back of a shelf. I'm not even going to mess with that.
You confused MP10 with MP1?
Yes, it's a new shelf. I'm still getting used to it.
And you call yourself a Transformers fan.
Brian out here flaunting my
Transformers.
MP10 in front of me.
This was on the news at some point.
Me, princess.
In several places.
Okay, Rodimus, masterpieces.
I haven't collected any masterpieces myself. Yes, that's true. The reason behind that is because of scale.
Fair enough.
And
that's pretty much my collection.
Yeah, it's like I have like a whole bunch of like, you know, the War for Cybertron stuff, and then of course you have like the classic stuff, and the masterpieces were always much larger. And so while they look phenomenal, they're also kind of overcomplicated. And I also when masterpieces were first starting, then the alternators line came out. If you guys remember when the alternators came out, they were super detailed, almost masterpiece esque in their transformations. And so, alternators, Optimus Prime right there.
We're talking about reboots. I want that rebooted.
And
this is awesome.
So I haven't collected any of them, but the other thing, I've seen them in person. They look phenomenal, but
You just reminded me I have that one.
they're super expensive, and they're getting pricier and pricier and pricier. So you can spend $80 on a Masterpiece Blue Streak, or you can spend $20 on the Earthrise one, and the Earthrise one is pretty all right, But
windshields aside,
it's a matter of what you want in your collection, and if you like the scale of Masterpiece, go for it. I kind of like the more affordable, get more characters out of it kind of deal. So,
what abomination is that?
What the heck is that?
Built to rule Optimus.
Oh my God! Get that away from me.
Okay, Bert, you're next.
My eyes.
Bert, masterpieces. I assume you have one at least beside you.
Movie masterpiece, Optimus Prime. Actually, he's right here. No.
Better.
I'm not 100% collector on these guys. As far as the movie ones go, really, the most appeal for me has been Prime, and also the Bumblebees that transform into a Volkswagen. Because my first 3 cars were all air-cooled Volkswagens. My first car was a yellow Volkswagen Beetle. So, anytime there's a yellow Bumblebee, I'm going after it. So, love the Bumblebee movie that transforms into the Bug. I love this guy right here. And I picked up that Ironhide again because he was $17 at Ross. Not because I had any particular interest in him, but he's a nightmare to transform.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get him in the robot mode and you get him in the truck mode, he looks fantastic. He's a good looking figure. He's just no fun to transform.
Okay, Patriot, thoughts on masterpieces?
Are you guys bringing that one up?
Too expensive. I have one. I have the official original MP01 that my wife bought for me while I was in Iraq. He was actually the icon or mascot of my channel for a long time. He's way over there holding the American flag. Probably can't see him, but he's up there. I do have I forget what brand it is. It's the Emperor of Destruction, which is the KO G1 Megatron. And then I have a KO Beast Wars Megatron because, as I said earlier, I'm a huge Megatron fan. But masterpieces look good for me. But like you guys said, you got these figures just getting smaller and smaller and smaller while that price is just going up and up and up. And I can buy a ton of figures for the price of one masterpiece.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got this fantastic Earthrise Scorponok right here that just blows my mind every time I mess around with it for half the cost of that little MP4 Optimus Prime you got.
Now for the masterpieces, I thought we were talking specifically about the movie ones, but if we want to talk about like the G1 MP figures, those modern, smaller plastic ones, I'm going to say something that's probably very unpopular, but I've been going with the KOs on those because you can pick them up for $30-$40 and you get yourself a good leader class figure that's in a very good detail or a very good level of detail and really good plastic quality.
I was actually going to say the KOs are generally actually improved somewhat.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've come out and they are less, and they've figured out where a lot of the flaws are. I think what's happened really is that some of the same problems Hasbro has with War for Cybertron, Takara, when they make a really good quality toy, they can't always control how well the factory is going to get a very fragile part right or not.
I got that Wheeljack. I know that Wheeljack had some issues that were corrected with the KO. And the same thing with Ironhide. I got the Ironhide KO as well. And there were some
did that with the
that were
M44.
corrected with the KO.
You can get
And they were
that
$40.
MP44 for about a KO for about $100, and it doesn't have the problems with the knees and the doors and stuff.
Yep.
Okay, Brian, masterpieces, go.
I like them.
Oh man.
These are the only two that I have because I bought them for like half the price at the toy fair. But man, I am actually quite surprised with the Bumblebee, especially how they managed to get all the hood section, which usually is just slapped on the back, all tucked in the body. It's pretty clever, and the feet transformation is pretty clever. I like Barricade. My only problem with it is this isn't an elbow. The elbow should be like right around here or something. Why is it that high up? But otherwise, fantastic toys. And I got the MP Soundwave. Unfortunately, broken the tab on the chest thing, so now I have to use a rubber band to leave it closed. And of course, I got MP Shockwave as well as various other characters. However, my point that I'm trying to get at is, as you can see, most of my collection is the deluxes, the Voyagers, the other ones. There's probably a Legends right there.
Hey, George, zoom in on him.
Yeah, sure.
Vanna White it.
Focus.
Big Time Nerd 1990 says the movie Autobots scale great. Although, is Shockwave comparatively sized to Optimus there? Is that accurate? Yeah.
Well, depends on what accurate is. I mean, it's a cartoon, and usually.
Are we basing it on the cartoon? I mean, I feel like I'm basing it on the cartoon.
I mean,
one of the things they tried to do at Masterpiece when they rebooted the 2.0 line, they tried to get the scales right again.
But what I was getting at is like, yeah, Masterpiece is cool, and then third party kind of helps. But with the Chug line, all the scale, you get that with Prime, you get that with the movie, you get that with Generations, I guess Beast Wars to a degree, if you want to count that, Cybertron, all Cyberverse, other lines and whatnot. Like, it's all not the perfect scale, but there's kind of a respect to the size, I guess, if that makes any sense. So, and there's so many different characters to choose from that it's just, and you can buy them at Walmart, you can buy them at Toys R Us, you can buy them at Target, you can buy them at wherever, whenever they're available, because stores suck right now.
Hey, but, Brian, can you tell us what the weather is in the upper left corner of your room?
So over here, we've got Titan Returns, which is a little stormy in this area. Power of the Primes is a little windy. Not sure what's going on here. I don't think anyone does. Robots in the Skies has some good sunny parts, but over here with the one steps, it's hit or miss. Over here with Generations, you get mixed rain or snow. Over here, I don't know.
I have
a big low pressure system moving in from the north.
I have a question for Brian.
Yeah, weather in Canada is weird.
Yeah. Where can I buy a Masterpiece Demolisher?
That's what I want. I even said on Twitter I want an MP Demolisher at some point. Also, over here we got Bionicle, and over here we got Halo Mega Constructs, in case anyone's wondering.
Over here we have a collection of yarn.
Behind Bert,
I'm
so jealous.
Over here we got
green on bread.
No, because Patriot was telling us before we went live today that he was on a movie or a TV show or something on Netflix, and he was like showing us all his stuff, and I cried.
Now, what was that? What was I doing?
About the
I know you're
toys that made you.
Shockwave's guns painted.
Where'd you get that from?
This?
The gun?
Oh, yeah, Rodimus Primal.
The gun is actually from the accessory pack, but I painted it purple.
Oh, that's sharp.
Very cool.
Yeah. And I painted the barrel too, so Shockwave is carrying himself in gun mode.
I'm just reading they don't have that Centurion pack anymore. It's just painful.
I know, but I ordered it right away because I knew.
I was looking at it, going, "I'll get that later," and it was gone.
Yep, went too quick.
See, I wasn't really interested in that pack because of the pulp printer thing. Like, everything in that I can make myself.
Yeah, speaking of, which is a lead into the next topic, 3D printing. Now, I was hoping Larkin would also be here because he also does it. But so we're going to go with George here. And people love your back end for the Earth forms of Ratchet and Ironhide. So how can people get into 3D printing?
You buy a printer. Like, I wasn't really sure about it. Like, I'd heard about it and I wanted it, and then I found out how cheap it was because, like, you can buy a printer for the same price that you can spend on a console, and people buy those constantly. Some people even have multiple, like all three of the ones that are the main three for whatever current generation it is. So it's like printing's easy to get into, and then there's so much content out there from like CNC Kitchen and 3D Printing Nerd and just a wealth of channels that'll get you started. Another one is
Larkin's Lair.
No, I mean like.
Oh, you mean like instructional channels?
Yeah. Chep, what's his name? I can't remember. CHEP. He does Filament Friday, and like he has tips and tricks. So you can like, there's so much information out there on how to dial in your printer, and it's great. And then there's so many people out there like Larkin's Lair and myself. There's Funby Studios, Sam's Forge that are just, we're making stuff for Transformers because it's like we see this and we're like, where's the spoiler? We'll just make it. And we're happy to make it because we love the stuff. So if you want to get into it, it's easy to buy a printer. It's easy to buy filament. There's a wealth of information on how to get started. And then there's so many things you can print.
Hey, real quick, Jurassic Park 2468 wants you to notice them. So say hi to Jurassic Park 2468.
Hello, Jurassic Park 2468. Who do we appreciate?
Go away.
What?
So getting parts,
Brian, no!
Making parts for your own parts for 3D printing, then is it like, because it's not something that you, like you have to like know what you're doing, I guess, as far as like actually modeling it, though, don't you?
See, I have modeling skills from high school. I was into 3D animation for 2 semesters.
Okay.
So I've got that kind of background, and then transitioning to Blender was fairly easy. There's tutorials on how to make your own stuff in Blender. There's fantastic ones on how to make IKEA chairs and whatnot from scratch. And that kind of gets you going. When I design stuff for printing, I do it with the limitations of the printer in mind, like the overhangs and print lines and whatnot. So like the tires I just made for Hound, I designed them so that they're flat so that the printer can make the circles perfectly and get the treads done well.
Is that the Cyberverse Sharkticon?
It is.
That is my favorite one.
I got it because it was cheap enough to army build. So I bought 3 of them for $12. But so like you can like pretty much learn from like all of the stuff that you learned in college, I guess, to actually be able to do it. But if you don't know what you're doing, it kind of like you're relying on other people's prints then, to make like,
I guess so. Yeah.
Because like you were saying the spoiler for Sunstreaker, and the thing is with that is now there's an accessory pack out there that has not only the spoilers but the fillers for his legs, and the comes with one of his rifles.
And the thing is, those accessory packs will usually be better because they're injection mold. Like printing can only go so far. You always will get layer lines. You can minimize them by like really cranking in the settings. Like I can go down to 1/10 of a millimeter. Some people have gotten even more, but I don't really recommend it. But the injection mold will A, be stronger, and B, will have a nice even coat to it. So
yeah. Well, the fillers.
That's my problem with 3D printing. That texture is just not acceptable yet.
Yeah, I agree.
And then that's what I mean about like you can design it so that it's minimalistic. Like if you have a nice gradient along the top surface, you will see those stair steps, and it looks disgusting. So I try and get around that. Some of them, like for instance with the ratchet, the way it had to be designed for strength in the hinge, I couldn't get around that, but some of them you can. So it depends on the designer, and sometimes you can get away with it, sometimes you can't.
It seems to depend on the part too. Usually a larger, blockier part works better than a smaller, intricate gun or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And that again depends too. Like I made a fusion cannon for Megatron to make it look more G1-ish, and the way it was printed, the only layer lines you can actually see are the ones for the 5mm port that get hidden away when it's plugged in anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, so in the same spirit, I'm going to move on to Patriot here. And then I think also Bacon might qualify. You guys have advertisers with companies that do custom decorations for toys, specifically Toyhacks with Patriot. And I forget what the ads were running on TFormers, but starting with Patriot, what are your thoughts on those custom decorations? I'm a purist. I just like keeping it the way it is out of box. I mean, because I've seen some of your videos, like the Optimus Prime one, where you did the full decorations, and that is very nice. It is very the high quality. But what is your general? Because since you've actually experienced them, you've applied them, you've used them, I just have to assume you enjoy using them.
Well, for me, it's twofold. I love to improve the looks of my figures. I can look, let's say, Thrust right here. A great looking figure, but he's missing some things. There's some stuff that could really make him stand out. He doesn't have big Decepticon logos. There's a lot of empty space that needs filled up. A lot of people complained he's got a plain nose cone, a decal, or something to make that black. I love to have my figures looking the best way possible for me personally. They're displayed here for my enjoyment, so I want them to look great. And it's also soothing for me. I love sitting down. I have my screens up with the Toyhacks sticker maps. I'm playing some music, and it's just relaxing. It's almost like model building. You would not believe the tools that I have so I can do my decals with. So, yeah, we got to have them. And I love it. For example, the Earthrise Optimus Prime trailer. If you have Earthrise Optimus Prime and you don't have any enhancements, getting late, any enhancements for that trailer, it looks like garbage. It's just plain gray plastic. But you add those decals, it just brings it to life. And it's just, that's what I enjoy. And that's, here comes Bert with his. That's not Bert. Hell, I got all screwed. You guys keep switching around. Yeah, right there. It looks great.
I like that.
And notice I got roller driving it, and I got two things in there. So I got the parts, I got the door there, so that kind of comes down real nice. And then
that no-nef kit is really great.
Oh yeah.
They
and
did
then
it just
the
right.
detail on the inside, dude. Look at that.
Oh my goodness.
So Patriot, that's Dead Prime, right?
That is Dead Prime with the Toyhacks conversion set to turn him into a new character called Monster, inspired by the Dark Awakening episode. So it really adds something to this guy. I mean, if you've seen him, he's just very plain gray, but now he has all these green highlights and armored windows, and it just really improves the looks of that character. I don't have to have him laying dead in his trailer. So
I also painted the back of the legs.
Oh, nice.
Prime.
Okay, so
That
Bacon,
fantastic.
you obviously have a butt ton of Optimus Primes. Do you customize any of them?
Right there.
I actually don't. I'm a pretty faithful vintage collector. I try to keep everything as historically true as possible. When I do, I will buy a second figure just for customizing.
I painted his face and his eyes. So when I took the head apart to paint the face, I also painted his eyes.
Rodimus.
I have nothing to add as far as Toyhacks goes. These guys are right there.
Hey, George, zoom in on Rodimus so we can see the face.
The Toyhack stuff really, it just brings everything up a notch. It's really, and they do such a professional job. It doesn't look like an aftermarket thing. It really is amazing how good they've gotten at them.
That is so shiny.
Is that with Molotov? Or Molotov
I
chrome paint?
used the tester's sky blue for his eyes.
Yeah.
And I used flat aluminum
Oh, really?
for his face. And then, of course, the label is Toyhacks. So Toyhacks went over the faceplate. And then I also painted here, there's that one part here that's red on the back piece. So when I took that there, it's actually painted. And this gun was 3D. I think it was, I don't know if it was 3D printed or if it was, made from someone. But this is not actually the accessory pack blaster that he's holding. And of course, again, I painted the back of his legs blue. And the insides, of course. And that's
they're usually gray.
Blue. Because the thing is, in order to get the head apart, I also painted the neck. So if you notice, the neck is gray. When I took the head off, I had to get a screwdriver in there, and I pried it open. But you got to be really careful because there's I think 2 pegs. No, there's one peg. There's one peg connecting on the top of the head here that actually connects it to the two of them. But the eyes are on the back of the head. And the plastic is actually the same for the back of the head is the same red as the toy. So that's the reason why, if you kind of notice, you might even be able to see it, is that some of the antenna are starting to show some red underneath, is because the paint is starting to scrape off in places because the plastic they used was red. And I also painted his the
headlights,
shoulders.
Running lights.
So
running lights, yeah. Okay, George, zoom back out. And is Bert back?
I was going to show this to Bacon real quick. I know it'll break his heart, but this is a Toyhacks G1 Bruticus, Toyhacks into cartoon accurate Bruticus.
Can you zoom in, George?
Still trying to get the hang of this. Sorry.
And I think that just looks amazing.
Can you see the back?
I keep trying to get Toyhacks to do diaclone.
Look here. They even gave decals for the 3 spots on his back that you had to shoot to deactivate him. Remember in the show?
I keep begging Toyhacks to do the diaclone stickers.
Revenge of Bruticus.
Start their G1 toys instead of paying a mint for a diaclone, but they never listen to me.
Okay, George, go ahead and zoom out.
If you're listening, Toyhacks, we need diaclone, please.
Toyhacks, sponsor me, please. I've got a run that needs stuff.
Toyhacks was listening at the beginning of the stream. I'm not sure if they're still here or not.
Hey, Bert, do you customize your army of Optimuses?
Yes. Yes, I do. In fact, my Earthrise Optimus Prime is, in fact, a figure that Jason did the stickers for on his video.
Yeah. Brian, do you customize?
Yeah. What was it? You didn't have the figure at the time, so I just sent you mine?
I couldn't find the figure. Toyhacks had just sponsored me, and I thought, okay, I need to do a big one for my initial rollout. Play on words. And they had just came out with the Toyhacks Optimus Prime set, and I'm like, that's perfect. So I ordered it thinking that Earthrise Prime would appear in my area. It didn't. Bert, all of a sudden, he pops up a review of Prime, and I said, buddy, let me borrow Earthrise Prime, and I'll Toyhacks him for you. Just let me borrow the figure, shoot a review, and that's how it happened.
Okay, so real quick, before I go back to Brian, Soundwave Superior asked, he was wondering if you happen to know in advance, this is for Patriot, any Toyhacks decals are being made for the Netflix Soundwave 3-pack.
There's not any being made right now.
Okay, Brian.
They're being thought up. I mean, I've had a lot of people ask me if the Siege Toyhacks decals will work with Earthrise. They will not, or the Siege will work with Netflix. There's too much mold difference between those two figures.
Brian, customization, go.
I'm just wondering when Toyhacks is going to do stickers for the tiny turbo changers and Transformers. But I haven't really done too much as far as stickers. I mean, the only thing that's close to that is, this guy right here. And someone knows why. But I don't usually do those kind of customs. Instead, I do cardboard stuff. So this Galvatron over here is cardboard. The Slipstream's cardboard. This Nova Glow over here is a custom character that's cardboard.
Exceptionally well done for cardboard.
The joints are a little loose, but otherwise, yeah, they're in
That's
decent
cardboard?
shape. Yeah.
Cool.
Zoom in on that.
Come on, George, zoom in on it. There we go.
That's
Or just don't want to look
Wow.
at the 10.
That is so cool.
And the goggles even look down.
Good
Oh,
grief.
neat.
Wow.
Well done, sir.
I've got a custom obsidian rack and rune that I just changed up for the Prime series. Who else? I got pipes. Is a custom. I got a red alert, which is the female form. What?
No, someone in the comments was saying, "Who does Brian think he is?"
I think he thinks he's Brian.
I think I'm Cardboard Bots, but I think that's some other guy.
Cardboard Prime.
Cardboard Bots. I got a red alert. Actually, I'm going to bring out the red alert because I like this.
Cardboard Formers.
It's the eye.
Don't get them wet.
I got the countdown as a big ship, and then I got a little MicroMaster for him. It's in the other room, but.
Oh, speaking of countdown, I got to show you guys this. We were talking about 3D printing earlier. I had our buddy Firetox make this for me to display
Ooh, I
my MicroMaster
saw that.
shovels on it.
Oh, that is nice.
Oh, neat.
Wow.
nice.
That is very cool.
I'll just say this. So there's the red alert. The slipstream is actually based on that Transformers Prime Galvatron Rising short thing. And then the slipstream. The Galvatron is my own Galvatron. That's for my Misfortune series because it was a part of a twist thing. And you didn't know it was Galvatron.
What a twist!
What twist?
I actually thought, that
I was
reminds
going to
me.
go to you anyway, so go ahead, Ed.
I got an idea, and I think it would be an awesome idea, is to take...
Okay, pat yourself on the back, why don't you?
Go ahead, Rodimus, for Pete's sake.
Okay. So, I was thinking of doing the intro to Robot Chicken, but with Dr. Arkaville and Nemesis Prime.
Ooh.
But it's kind of hard to do. And you'd have to do it with stop motion.
I don't know. Your Beavis and Butthead opening was pretty damn good, and obviously you had to draw that.
That was a challenge. I actually had to draw the frames of animation for the mouth plate going up and down because they weren't like that in the, their mouths weren't moving during that part of the show. And I also had to draw the whole like area where everything was, and run about and run amok. And that was also really fun having Paige right there doing the intro. That was hysterical. And also using the clips from Beavis and Butthead. Speaking of which, did you guys see my post on Twitter and Facebook? I wasn't able to put it on Instagram because I made it as a comic book.
No, I don't
Must have
really
missed
go on
that.
Twitter much, but
Let me see.
actually, I don't really go on much social media at all. I just reply to comments, and that's it.
It was hysterical. I had fun making it. It was basically a little comic book of where did I leave the drawing?
While you're looking at, can I use a slightly modified idea of that Arkaville thing for a video of mine? Because that sounds amazing. I'm thinking Unicron and Galvatron.
Well, you could do that idea. I was thinking of doing it for Arkaville and Nemesis, because then have Nemesis like come to life, and when he does, he's like does the whole Robot Chicken ending, and then make that the intro of a video where I take all the amalgamation of my different cartoon or TV show crossover intro parodies and make an entire episode of Autobot Chicken.
That'd be okay. See, I was thinking for my overloads, just like one of them just start with Galvatron picking up a limp Megatron and then rebuilding it into Galvatron, and then
That would be
it's alive.
Okay, so we're about 3 hours in. So I have one question from Ian1231100, which is a question everybody could probably use the answer to. Since some of you have pets, how do you pet-proof your collection? And also child-proof your collection, because I'm going to add that.
Have you seen my videos and all the pet hair in it, and everyone comments on that? Because I don't see it while I film until like I'm just about ready to upload, and someone's like, "Clean the pet hair off your stuff, dude."
So George doesn't pet-proof or child-proof anything. Great. Rodimus, you have children.
I have most of my toys in bins over there.
Come here real quick.
Someone got sidetracked.
And this office is upstairs. And there's a gate to upstairs, so my kids can't come up here because my kids are 4. My daughter's about to be 5, and my son is 2. So if they do come up here, it's okay because it's the Earthrise stuff. It's okay because it's the more modern stuff. And if they're playing with it, I can kind of keep an eye on it in this room. But my daughter will be more careful, but my son I have to be very careful of.
Hello.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, Dylan.
Okay,
right,
so since Patriot brought a show and tell, how do you protect your stuff, sir?
All right, they were talking about how they keep their children from messing with their collection. What have I trained you? What's the rules in here since day one?
Look and no touch.
Look with what?
Look with your eyes and not with your fingers.
Yep.
And I have trained him
Good
that
boy.
way since he could crawl. There's actually a video on my channel. I think he's 2 years old. And he's talking about everything in the room, but he's not touching nothing. And to this day, he hasn't touched anything. But he has asked me, Daddy, when can I play with these? And I said, when I'm dead. And he said, when's that going to be?
See, in the room with all my stuff, I've got just really high shelves they can't reach, and then I'll let them play with it so long as I'm in the room with them.
Okay.
They have to ask, and then like we'll play with Bumblebee for like half hour or something.
If my animals touch my stuff, I go all John Wick backwards.
Oh,
It's no
Bert,
longer
how do you
killed my dog. It's my dog touched my Transformer, and I'm going to kill my dog.
And then I kill someone else.
This room that I'm in now, we just bought and moved into this house in this past April, and this room just got put together finished putting it together about a month ago. But this is upstairs, and there is a baby gate at the bottom of the stairs. The dogs are not allowed upstairs at all. So the bottom floor of the house is tile, upstairs is carpet. So the dogs are not allowed upstairs, period. We don't want dogs here in the carpet. In our previous house, though, I did have the dogs trained to never cross the threshold of my collection room. They just knew they don't go in there. So that's how I handled the pets. In terms of the kids, I've raised 2 girls, and now we're on our second one that's 2. And what I've always done, because it is a question that I get a lot, is the following. I always have a section of kid versions of toys for my kids to play.
Good
with.
idea.
There you go.
So there has always been kid. So you see some of the old Kenner Ghostbuster stuff there. There's some of the Fisher Price Transformers and stuff like that. I've always had a section like a kid section in my room. So my kids have always grown up knowing 2 things. They can never come in here by themselves. They can only come in here if I'm in here. And when they do come in here, those are their toys. These are my toys. And it's worked. It's worked.
That's a great idea.
And knock on wood, nothing fatal has happened to anything in my collection.
Now, real quick, since we're talking about pets, I have to go over something that happened just yesterday. So back in 2001, if I can remember correctly, this was my very first Amazon.com purchase, the 2001 Red Scourge.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's sometime in 2005. I've been back from Iraq, and I had these guys displayed. I didn't have this. They were just kind of displayed in the room on tables and stuff. And I'm doing something. I look over, and my cat is chewing on the sword.
Oh
for sword.
no!
So you see it?
I was going to ask you if he went for the pink sword. I don't
Went
know
for the
why I've
sword.
seen a few of those chewed on.
Oof.
So for years, I have been looking for a sword for Scourge. Never ever found anything. And every now and then on a Facebook page, I'd post, anybody have a sword? I'm looking on eBay. There's never the sword. Last week, I ran into a guy that had an unopened baggie of Scourge parts with a brand new, unchewed on sword.
Nice.
He says, I sold the Scourge years ago. I don't know why I didn't sell the parts with him. Give me a Patriot Prime t-shirt and they're yours.
Nice.
I'm so happy to have this guy complete now, and I can do a proper review on him coming soon on Patriot Prime Reviews.
I have a Darth Maul statue that's a numbered statue that I got back when episode 1 first came out, and some 20 some odd years ago, and Cat ate half of his lightsaber.
Oh no!
Pink, translucent, and there's no replacing it. It's a numbered statue. There's no replacing that lightsaber. But Bacon was saying something about translucent red or translucent pink parts. Cats just want to eat that.
Yeah.
I'll just say this. Here's the tank.
I'm lucky I have 2 cats and they don't give a crap about my toys.
Yeah. The 2 that were here, they moved out last year and the year before, so no kids touch my stuff anymore. And I have to use a baby gate now because the cats that are here are getting bold. And so now I feel like I'm dealing with babies again, which is not what I want. And so anyway, we're gonna.
I'm just saying, here's the tank mode again.
That is so amazing, honestly, that you're able to do
Really
that.
nice.
Yeah, it's wow. That's cardboard.
That's crazy.
Okay, so we're gonna finish up with the question. Optimistic question for the 2021 year, starting with George. What are you most looking forward to this year? And just go with that question because we're on 3 hours, so let's just go with that question. What are you most looking forward to in Transformers in 2021?
Tracks.
Me too. Okay, it's Bacon.
The rest of the Beast Wars for Kingdom, I guess.
Okay, Rodimus.
I'd say all of Kingdom.
Okay, Bert.
Kingdom with a focus on Beast Wars.
Patriot.
Beast Wars for sure. I can't wait to get that new Megatron. And Rodimus has already done it, but I cannot wait to talk to one of my childhood icons right here. Next Friday on my channel, I'll be interviewing Stan Bush live.
Promotion.
That's amazing.
I did Bert, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Brian.
Kingdom Wave 1, because there's probably going to be nothing else released out here.
I'm going to change my answer. Can I say Studio Series Jazz? Because,
Sure.
I forgot all about that thing for a second. And yeah,
Everyone
that's what I'm
forgot
looking forward to.
Well, it's your channel. You can change whatever you want.
Yeah, because I forgot about Beast Wars, Tito and Black Arachnia, which should be here next week. So I'm making yay. Okay, so for everybody who's watching, we are at the 3 hour mark. I'm sorry if I didn't get to your questions. I will give you a little shout out though. I have questions from Bakuop and Big Time Nerd 1990. Sorry I didn't get to your questions. Again, in 2 weeks from tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, the Lazy Eyebrow and I will be back with a new group of people, including Input, Gotbot, Crimson Raptors, TF Fan Geek, and others. And we'll be doing this similar thing on this channel. And again, we're going to start with the Lazy Eyebrow and work our way around. Everybody, tell everybody where they can find your stuff. And don't forget, everybody's watching. Like, subscribe, follow. Just don't stalk. Go, George.
MySpace.
What's that, Brian?
MySpace.
Oh, yes, I have the biggest MySpace. And
American
Brian's
Online.
bigger.
Since everybody's migrating away from Facebook and Twitter now.
It's true.
Back to the web.
Anyways, where you can
Everyone
find
should
me,
start
you've
blogging.
already found me if you're here. There's the Twitter at the Lazy Eyebrow and the Facebook at the Lazy Eyebrow, and there's the Instagram at Lazy Eyebrow. Pretty much if there's an Instagram or if there's a social media page and you look at the Lazy Eyebrow, you'll more than likely find me if I'm on there.
Okay, Bacon.
TFormers.com, and then you have Facebook/TFormers, Twitter/TFormers, and Instagram/TFormers. And we have TFormers TV on YouTube that will come to life at some point this year.
Rodimus.
You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Obviously I'm here on on YouTube as well. I also have a second channel that is Rodimus Primal Talks. I also have a Patreon. I have, of course, my Teespring store for T-shirts and stuff like that. And and then of course you've got Dinobot spinning his blade because he doesn't want to hear Rodimus Primal talk.
Okay,
saying on his collection there.
Bert.
Bert the Stormtrooper on Facebook, also Bert the Stormtrooper on Twitter and Instagram, and of course, Bert the Stormtrooper on YouTube, host of a little series called That's Just Prime.
Okay, Patriot.
All of the above: YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter.
MySpace, Friend Finder,
OnlyFans.
Friendster. Brian. Brian, where are you at?
This is a family channel, not aimed for people under 13.
I was talking about sports. I got Bert crying.
There's a chain of stores in Florida called Fan City, and they have signs on their outside of their windows that says "Only Fans," and you just see these big fans in the window.
Okay, Brian, anytime now, social media where people can find you on YouTube's. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Brian. I'm on YouTube. You can find my channel with the name TFan Page 101. It's almost my 10th anniversary on YouTube. What are you looking at, Bert?
You know what I find funny is everyone calls you TF Fan Page 101,
Yeah,
but your real name is
people
T
even
Fan
misspell
Page.
it. Even when my name's right there, it's TF Fan Page. No, TFan Page 101. The F is combined in both. Anyways, so there's that.
I
And
even
then
do
I'm
it.
also on Ultimate Doom. So Toa of Ultimate Doom. And you can see me review a bunch of Halo sets because I've been doing that lately. I'm taking a break from doing Transformers reviews right now because there's big stuff going on with my family that I don't feel comfortable talking about right now. But otherwise, yeah, those are YouTube. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook pages are available. They're all connected on YouTube. Okay, go away.
Okay. So again, I'm Anthony Hashley from HNE Games, Hatchersnut Enterprises. You can find us as HNE Games on YouTube, and a mix of Hatchersnut Enterprises and HNE Games on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, MySpace, Friendster. Definitely not OnlyFans.
Hey, Bert, high five.
So with that, my part is done. So I'm going to give it back to the Lazy Eyebrow to finish up.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for 3 hours. Again, in 2 weeks, come back. So go ahead, George. Wrap this bad boy up. These guys are already lost it.
We're just high-fiving each other now. This has been the Lazy Eyebrow. Thank you all for joining, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks in a review next week of the Earthrise Seekers. So, yeah, thanks for joining.
Live long and prosper till all are one.